and welcome back to a new series for rFactor 2. We're here for a brand new season, a brand new car, and some very interesting action that is going to take place over the next 6 rounds, over the next 12 weeks. We've got a whole new series. We've got the Formula Pro car, obviously high power, high downforce open wheel car, and then that also brings with it the Formula Challenge as well. So there's 2 tiers to this, just like the GT series that we've seen, but we're going a little bit different down the side of the Open Wheel Championship. And myself, Cameron, Roger, and Aidan Millward are going to have a bit of an introduction to the season here and get you up and running with the teams and drivers for this championship.
Yeah, brand new car, brand new season, and a car that a lot of people have really enjoyed driving. You can see like the B-roll in the background of the cars going through Fania here at Spa, and it's just very exciting in general. There you go, introducing to Formula Pro, Red Bull Racing Esports, the first team that we have. It's a very familiar livery that you may have seen in the last 24 hours as they bring their drivers into this sport. So this is a team-based series. So you got Alex Siebel, Dennis Jordan, formerly of Edge Esports, now in the Red Bull stable. And there's the car that you will be able to identify. Just to point out that the little fluorescent yellow on the top of the roll hoop is for the driver who has the higher number. So it's not like driver 1, driver 2. It's like they'll still be competing as drivers. There will be a team's championship, but there's no sort of like number 1, number 2 in all of this. It's just straight racing and going for it. But Red Bull Racing Esports coming to the fore in the single-seater scene in rFactor 2, and Siebel and Dennis Jordan, very, very fast drivers in their own right, and I'm looking forward to seeing them get racy with the other 25 or 24 or so drivers on the grid, which is really cool. I really can't wait for this. It's the car looks great, the series looks fun, the cars are V10s as well, so they're going to be making a ton of noise, and they're going around one of the best racetracks in the world, so I don't think there's much else to say with that game.
Yes, 6 races, $25,000 on the line as well. So this is going to be a great series, and this is some of the best teams that we've got on rFactor 2. So here's the second team. We got R8G Esports, and I'm sure you would have heard of this team. They're doing so good across many platforms, but also on rFactor 2. With their main driver there, Erhan Yuyovsky. Well, I say main driver. They're both good, but Yuyovsky being obviously a double GT Pro champion, which is so difficult to do. There's only been 3 seasons, and he's won 2 of them. But along with that, the BMW Sim M2 CS Racing Cup, he's been one of the highest profile drivers in there, winning the overall race there at the BMW Sim Live last season as well. VEC champion alongside him with Risto Capit as well. They've been together as a partnership for quite a while now, so I think that team's really going to be one to look out for, because as Aidan mentioned, it is a teams championship, so we're really going to be looking at the pair of the drivers rather than just the drivers champion overall. It's really how they both work. And considering there's, I think, 13 teams, you've got to be a really good pairing to get yourself high up towards the top slots. And there's so much prize money on the line as well compared to what we've been racing for in previous championships as well. So I think they're one to look out for.
Yeah. Next up, team number 3, introducing to Formula Pro. It's Burst Esports. Now, this is a team that has done very, very well in Formula Sim Racing, the official open wheel championship in rFactor 2. They've got the current FSR world champion, Jean Alesi Esports, as well as Michi Hoyo, driver who has seemed to have found an absolute monumental amount of pace over the last sort of 6 months or so. Came out, won the first 3 races in Formula Sim Racing, and he's been doing very well in GTs, in endurance racing. He's the inaugural GT Challenge champion for rFactor 2. So these are 2 drivers that you definitely need to look out for. Michi, very, very quick. Yerne, twice a world champion in open wheelers in FSR, like I said. So Yerne in the number 17, Michi in the number 10. So they are expected to be in the top 5 every single race without fail.
Yeah, they certainly are. Both drivers doing good, not only in open wheels such as FSR, but also GT Pro, really bringing that Burst team forward as well. So it's good to see that they've come to this championship as well. I would say that between those first 3 teams that we've seen, so Red Bull, R8G and Burst, they're probably going to be the ones sort of up there all the time, but we will see, because there are still plenty of good teams to come. And the next one being the one and only Jean Alesi Esports Academy. This team has really sort of moved forward in many ways over the last year or so. They've signed some really good drivers. The main one here being Kasper Stolzer and Jordi Zwijs. Jordi winning the Le Mans 24 Hours in terms of many different series. He's won that, I think, 4 times in total, including the rFactor 24 a couple of years ago now in LMP2. So he's very good in that endurance sort of prototype scene. Is that going to carry over to open wheels? We'll have to find out. He did do FSR in 2020, and he had a fairly decent season, but he didn't really quite get to the upper echelons at the top of the league. So we'll have to see how that one translates for him. But he is a GT Challenge champion in season 2 at the end of 2020 as well. So we'll have to see how that one works out. And regarding what we said about a team performance, his teammate Kasper Stolzer, he is certainly an entertaining driver. He always gets inside the action in the race, so that's certainly one to look out for. But whether he's going to be able to push them to the top in terms of results, that's what we're going to be finding out later on this evening. But he is definitely a team player.
Yeah, and the next team that we will be introducing to you, oh, this car looks familiar. It's Rocket Sim Sport. You may recognise that livery from about, it's well over 10 years ago, but this car will be driven by the reigning GT Pro champion Jan van der Heijden and his Hungarian teammate in the number 23, Daniel Kish. Very, very fast open-wheeler driver in his own right, and Jan van der Heijden as well. I mean, he looks like Valtteri Bottas, but he's very, very, very quick, so expect good things from those. And this is part of the Zancho family. It's like sort of part of that family tree, if you will. And they were one of the invited teams to the series. And it's great to have so many teams in this series associated with top-level open-wheeler teams, past and present as well. So you've got like Jean Alesi, Romain Grosjean, with Red Bull, obviously, and now Rocket in the iconic highlighter yellow and white colours of the 2009 World Championship winners.
And I think the important thing to note for this team is that last season, GT Pro and GT Challenge, they were the champions with Richards and van der Heijden. So I think that's very, it's going to be very important to see how that one works, because as we said, team championship, you've got to have both the drivers up there. And coming on to the next one, Mercedes-AMG Petronas Esports team. I'm sure this is obviously a very well-known team, being the Mercedes Esports team, but also some very good names in there as well. Bonner House, 5-time FSR champion, so he absolutely knows what he's doing when it comes to open wheels on rFactor. And then he moved to the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series, did pretty well over there as well. And then also he was a Vegas E-Race champion back a few years ago as well. So he's certainly done loads of different sort of contests, and he's always really been at the top. He did some decent results in F1 Esports as well, so he certainly knows what he's doing when it comes to open wheels, and we're hearing that he is very quick in this car as well. So when we get to the qualifying in a few minutes time, we will certainly find out, but he is certainly one to look out for when it comes to just being at the top all the time. There's just something that he does, especially in open wheels, where he really gets the most out of the car. But you can't forget Marco Pajic, his teammate, ADAC GT Masters Esports champion as well. So he certainly knows what he's doing, and he's always at the front, beating some top names.
Yeah, so we've had Mercedes, we've had Red Bull. Who's next? It's Team Fordzilla. Very striking livery they've got for that car. It's very, very nice. I'm partial to that blue myself. But Team Fordzilla, team that's been around, not really been right at the top, but still Nuno Pinto is a driver that's known in rFactor 2 circles, and Gianmarco Fiduci as well. Gianmarco Fiduci is a driver I admittedly don't know a lot about, so I'm interested to see what he will do. Nuno Pinto, I mean, I say like these guys are very, very fast. You've got to be in Formula Pro. I mean, these guys are the creme de la creme of rFactor racing, but some of these drivers are going from GTs or other tin tops into open wheels, so the transition may be a little bit difficult for them, but you know, they're still very, very quick. But Nuno Pinto is a driver that should do pretty well, and I'm excited for Gianmarco Fiduci as well.
And we need to see what they're going to do. As far as I say, I'm aware they're more sort of GT tin top drivers, with Fiduci also being quite high up in a touring car series at the moment as well. So they certainly know what they're doing in that regard. Open wheel racing is quite a bit different. We do have obviously a lot of slipstream, a lot of DRS. Dirty air is quite a big factor. It's a completely different style of racing. So we'll have to see how that one works out. And this goes for this next team as well. Varga Sim Racing. Yuri Toman, Marcel Chinchik. You would have seen them all over the place in rFactor 2 over the last year. They've been in VEC, the Racing League Pro Championship. They're also GT Challenge, the BMW M2 series as well. All these things, they've been teammates, and they've always been at the top, very closely paced. And I think that's going to be very important for them this season, with it being Teams Championship. Both of them, they're always going to be there. I'd put my money on saying that they're probably going to be always sort of fighting in the top 10 as well. They're really going to be there, and you can't really count them out as well. Not necessarily open wheel specialists as such. They've done certainly a lot with the Orica LMP2 that's in rFactor 2 at the moment, the DLC content there. So they certainly know that car. How that's going to translate over to open wheel racing, we'll have to find out. Obviously, we've got tyre strategies to come into play as well, which you don't always see everywhere. So I think that's really going to be a bit of a learning curve for them. But in terms of raw pace, I think these guys are really going to be up the front. They're going to be ones to look out for. Whether they're going to be fighting for the championship, we'll have to find out. But they're certainly going to be up there.
Yeah, Varga, very well known, and I'm sure they'll do very, very well. They know how to use the downforce in the Orica. But here is BS Plus competition with the sort of asymmetric livery, with the blue and the white, and then the monochrome on the other side. Their drivers, these are two very fast lads, Alan Terzic and Mohamed Patel. Mohamed Patel, FSR champion a couple of years ago. Alan Terzic just seems to be rapid in virtually everything he gets behind the wheel of. So BS Competition are not a team to be written off at any point in this series, and especially around Spa as well, where they'll have done thousands of laps for testing and pre-qualifying. Some of the drivers will have done pre-qualifying for Challenge, which will happen on Friday night this week. And so they're learning everything they can about the car, and these are two guys that will have put in all the hours to learn what they can.
And Patel he's generally someone who when he's overtaking you, he'll make a very aggressive but precise move. He's someone definitely to look out for when we're talking about overtaking. He's very good at judging those instances to perfection, so certainly look out for that. Terzic, I think he's going to be a little bit more sort of up and down with his performances, but when he is on his A game, he's certainly very fast, and that is one team that is sort of affiliated with BMW, and then that comes to another team that is in that realm as well, Williams Esports. Really nice livery on this one, and they have got a couple of three really good drivers, as we'll explain. So we've got Petr Burlak and Martin Stefanko. However, Stefanko will be replaced by none other than Kuba Brzezinski for this race. So those three drivers, they've had plenty of experience. Burlak being FSR World Champion, he's been doing pretty decent in GT Pro as well. He did go into the relegations this season, but then he did a really good performance to get himself out of that and back into GT Pro, and has been doing a lot of stuff with endurance racing over the last year or so as well, doing the Le Mans Virtual, for instance. Martin Stefanko, he's been around for years. He's still very young. I think he's only about 22, 23 years old, but he seems to have been around for years now. He's a virtual GP champion, and he's done all sorts sort of in various different championships, the V10R series as well, runner-up. So he's done quite a lot. But as I said, he'll be replaced by Brzezinski for this race, who you would have seen in GT Pro. Him and Wisniewski really bringing up the BMW team there as well. So I think that's definitely going to be a team to look out for. And if you've got a replacement driver such as Brzezinski, you know you're in a good team.
Yeah, Brzezinski, rapid FSR driver as well before now Team Redline, a team that really needs no introduction. Was it the recent iRacing 8000 Watkins Glen? They won all three categories in one race. So Jeffrey Rietveldt, Kevin Siggy, there is a lot of talent behind the wheel in this car, and I mean that car itself just looks like an absolute weapon as well. So this is a team that you would expect to be at the top of this competition. They're one of the best racing stables in all of sim racing. Very, very successful. They've got some very high-profile drivers on the books as well, including Max Verstappen, Shane Van Gisbergen, and people like that. So these people know what they're doing, and if they don't win more than one race this season, I will be surprised.
Yeah, never count out Team Redline. And also Kevin Ziggy, twice a runner-up to Yuyovsky in GT Pro, so certainly knows what he's doing. And I wouldn't be surprised, as you say, if they're going to be winning some races this season. But the interesting thing with this championship compared to GT Pro is there's only one race per round. In GT Pro, there's two. There's a sprint and a feature race. In Formula Pro, it's just one 60-minute race. So you've got to make sure you're on your A game, especially in qualifying, to get yourself in a good grid position. Then we come to the penultimate team, Musto GD Esports. I'm sure if you've been around sim racing for a while now, you will know Musto Racing. They've been here for quite a while, ran by David Greco, who I'm sure many of you know works over at Codemasters as well. They raced in FSR for quite a long time, but they've now gone into a lot of GT racing in VEC and GTR 24, various different championships as well. And Bianca Lilla, he is a very sort of flamboyant driver. He went over to F1 Esports and did a couple of seasons over there as well. And he also was a Le Mans Virtual runner-up in the GT category as well. So also his teammate, Valeriano, a bit of a GT master as well. So is that going to translate to open wheels? I know they have done well, Valeriano being the FSR Ace champion in 2018, the second tier over there. So we know that they've got experience in open wheels, but they're very good in GTs. So they're sort of in that period where we need to find out how they're going to go. I wouldn't be surprised if they're sort of a little bit lower down in the championship, but they're certainly going to be interesting to watch.
Yeah, and as you say, that was the penultimate team, so this will be the final team, Wolves GR Esports. Now, being a man from Walsall, I shouldn't like this car, but it's they've got the backing of Wolverhampton Wanderers Football Club, which is a big deal. Adam Maguire, Liam Duval driving this car, and I know a bit about Adam Maguire from watching Formula Sim racing and commentating on that. So a very, very fast driver in his own right. Liam Duval, also a very, very fast driver. So probably a team not to be written off. Probably going to end up being mid-pack, fighting around the mid-pack, but still they are one to watch out for. It's a team that I don't know a lot about, admittedly, but it's still that just adds to the excitement of what's to come in the series after we're done with this pre-show, and then Lewis and Renee taking you through the actual race.
Yes, in terms of the team being fairly new, but obviously Maguire and Duval, they've been around quite a while now in GPVWC, especially in Super League, being champions last year. So they certainly know what they're doing in a competitive open wheel league. So we'll have to see how that one translates, because obviously Formula Pro, this is the creme de la creme. You've seen the teams here, and you've seen the drivers and our cars going around in the background as well. So we certainly know that this is a competitive grid. And I'll say, Aidan, who out of these teams have gone through, who do you think are really going to be the ones to look out for? I know it's hard to pick one team with it being so competitive, but who would you put your money on? Heart
says Rocket, but yeah, being sensible about things. Red Bull, Mercedes with Bono House. We're going to jump over the pronunciation of that all season. As well as R8G and even Burst as well. So there's definitely more than one team that can win it. It's just trying to pick one specifically. But I think Bono in the Mercedes might get it.
Yeah, I think because obviously we're focusing more on the teams and the pairings, I think one of the best pairings really is that Red Bull Racing Esports team. The first team you mentioned, Dennis Jordan, Alex Siebel, they work so well together. They're always going to be at the top. But at the same time, Vargas Sim Racing as well. I think as a pairing, Chinchik and Toman will be very good. But we'll have to see. It's only 6 races, and there's only 1 race per round as well. So it's not too long. We're going to have to find out what is going to happen. So in a few minutes' time, you'll be getting the wonderful voice of Lewis McLeod and Rennie Butler to take you through the Formula Pro series. But until then, we'll have a little break from the pre-show until the qualifying. So welcome to the new season, and we hope you enjoy.
the first ever pre-show is done, and that opens the door very wide for the very first round of the Formula Pro Series powered by Traction.gg. My name is Rennie Portland. Alongside, I got Lewis McLeod bringing you all the action live from this iconic venue that is Spa-Francorchamps. Lewis, you're right for open wheeler action non-stop.
Yeah, this is going to be crazy. I've commentated on a few competitive grids in my time, but this is 26 of the very best drivers, not only on rFactor 2, but across sim racing in general. It's going to be hefty fighting out there. I'm sure we've got a great season ahead.
Definitely will. We're just at the start of it, right? It's a brand new championship here within rFactor 2. We both did the GT Pro Series previously, and now we're gone with all the fenders. No rear arches, none of that exists here. We're back to open wheelers, naturally aspirated engines that rev as high as we can probably imagine, or as I can count, kinda. And we're starting off at Spa-Francorchamps, which is kinda the best way to get into this championship because there's so many possibilities.
It's one of the homes of motorsport. I've said it before. This track's been around since 1923, so nearly 100 years on the motorsport calendar. Obviously, it's changed a bit over that time. It was closed for a few years when they had the changes back down to the circuit, the modern circuit that we know today. But a brilliant venue for us, and one that really opens up the racecraft. It's such a raceable track. You've got that slipstream up towards Lake Como. You've got all the stuff around the back end of the circuit. A little bit of strategy in the mix to spice things up.
And the other venues that we will actually see this season are not any worse. I mean, we're traveling to Silverstone, heading over to the Nürburgring, and then also see Indianapolis, which is one of those open wheel tracks that I really adore from the past. It's an amazing track to go and visit in these cars before we head over to Zandvoort and then finish it off at that one track where Turn 1 is probably more iconic than anything that ever happened on this track, and that's Monza.
Yeah, I mean, that run into Turn 1 at Monza is going to be pretty spectacular, and it's a bit of a feisty way to end the season in such what will be a competitive championship. I'm absolutely sure it's going to come down to the wire. It's got to. It has to. And that fantastic formula we've said, I said that strategy is going to be a part of the mix. We're talking about a 60-minute race coming up. Standing start, so classic what you'd expect. Qualifying is going to be really important, but they don't have an infinite amount of laps in qualifying. Realistically, I think it's just 6 in total, and so realistically, you're only expecting a couple of actual timed laps in here. It's going to be pretty tough for them when you account for the outlaps and in-laps. It's not an easy qualifying format. They've got to be on top form.
Yeah, it's completely different to what we know from the GT Pro Series, right? As soon as you head out there and put your first time on the board, that's when the car basically gets locked and you can only change brakes, engine steering, and front wing. After that, everything else is set in stone, right? So you need to handle those 800 horsepower of that naturally aspirated engine all by yourself, and the drivers are already out there. As you said already, there won't be many flying laps in this one, which means you absolutely have to nail it right from the get-go if you want to have a good start into this new series.
Yeah, Manuel Biancalilla, who's currently just finished the lap time there, looking pretty strong. Of course, one of the drivers that has gone through sim racing for a while has been the runner-up back in the Le Mans Virtual in the GTE category for Aston Martin. So a driver who's been in sim racing for a very long time, driving for Musto GD Esports, David Greco's squad, instantly deposed by his teammate Valeriano and, of course, Risto Capit. In this session, we're not expecting it to be super busy out on track though, because realistically speaking, it's a 20-minute session. You think of it this way: if we're going to treat this as an out lap, a time lap, and an in lap, which even if you escape the in lap still counts, so across the 6 laps it's runs of 3 and 3. It's exactly what we're expecting here. They don't have to, but that's where we're expecting to go. A 20-minute session, the runs aren't that long, so realistically it's about timing your run, maybe getting banker laps in early and then going faster later on.
Yeah, definitely. We see that the two Romain Grosjean Esports drivers with Yoyoski and Capit got first and second, but then Bonnehaus came back for the Mercedes-AMG Petronas Esports team. One of the big names, I would say, especially when we talk about open wheelers and racing within the world of rFactor 2, that is, I would kind of call him the favorite for now in my own thinking, but then looking at the entire grid of this series, there are so many names that could easily score a win at Spa, while there are also names that I'm not quite familiar with yet, but they're super, super strong right from the get-go.
Well, there's a name that should be familiar to quite a lot of us. Bonnehaus up towards the top of the session, a 40.874. In practice prior to this, it was actually Jeffrey Rietveld who topped the session with a 40.5. driving for Team Redline. Now, interesting there, we're not 100% sure as to how much they're working together behind the scenes. Bonnehaus is actually a Redline driver who's driven for them, but obviously drives for the Mercedes-AMG Petronas team elsewhere in sim racing, being in the F1 Esports Championship. Seems to have fitted in quite comfortably. They're driving for the brand here in not the typical light green. It's a pink highlight on that car. It's absolutely fantastic. A livery that needs to be finished, mind, but good to see him top in the session anyway.
Chinchik just coming out of the hairpin there, with that cheeky drift basically on these cars. There's a ton of power on the rear wheels, and these cars are special also due to the DRS system. We kind of touched on that in the pre-show already and in the intro of this, but they create most of the downforce with like ground force basically, not via the rear wings. Obviously Chinchik nearly thrown away the car there after the first chicane, but it will give these drivers a bigger opportunity to drive closer to each other with not relying so heavily on the big rear wings, but it also means you won't just hit DRS and off you go.
Now, this is important for Chinchik, who's pulled off of the road there, coming out a corner with no name, which is pretty bad, because if you pull off of your lap, say, for example, you've done your out lap, that's 1. You've done your time lap, but then you've pulled off of it, that's 2. That does mean that you do only have 1 more run, because 4 laps, you can do 2 laps on it. You can do your 3rd lap as an out lap, then 4 and 5 as your time laps, and then your 6th lap must always be an in lap. If not, you get disqualified from the session. So has to play his cards a little bit carefully here and not burn out the tyres. Just as an FYI, by the way, when it comes to the tyre compounds of the series, we do have multiple tyre compounds in the championship. I'm more suspecting them to be running on the white wall tyres, what we have here, not counter to how it is in Formula 1, where white's the medium or the hards. These are the softest compound of tyre available, and especially around a circuit like Spa, not necessarily expecting too much tyre. We would expect a bit, especially with the stints of the race, but realistically, it's not going to be an overwhelming feature here.
And especially since they have to do 1 mandatory pit stop during the 1-hour race anyway, and they can choose whatever compound they want, right? So it's very likely that people will run 2 times soft, but we never know. It's a new series. Maybe someone found something out during practice, during preparation for this that we're not aware of as of right now. While we see Adam Maguire for Wolves GR Esports, and told me in the background actually, it's one of those UK football teams heading into esports. Great to have them here on board for the rFactor 2 Formula Pro powered by Traction, and so far they do quite well. I mean, 14th, that's not within the top 10, but we have to see how many cars we have here and how many of them are champion somewhere in rFactor 2.
Yeah, Aidan Millwood, massive fan of Wolves GR Esports, loves them. Obviously, he's from the Midlands and supports other teams, being Walsall. But Wolverhampton Wanderers are a team in the Premier League in the top tier of English football. And realistically, you wouldn't suspect that they'd be linked too heavily with esports. But alas, they've been in esports for a little while, to be perfectly honest, more so on the Rocket League scene and various other places. That is not how you would do the final chicane for Adam Maguire. Despite having a really good middle sector, what's Maguire going to do across the line? It's good enough to move it up into 4th position on a 41.035. These times are all considerably slower than they were in practice, where you have all the time in the world to do the laps of the session, thus proving how difficult this car is to drive. It's not a switch it on and go. Maguire is a quality driver. He's been a champion of the GPWC Super League in the previous season, so is a driver who's been at the front end of open-wheeled racing in various categories, but here I don't think he's come across a grid quite as strong as this.
I think it's also a bit about the nerves, right? For all of them, this is the big season opener here in Spa-Francorchamps, and you only have those limited amount of laps, which is completely different in case they're raced in GT Pro, for example, where they have a big window to use. And while we jump on board with the second Mercedes-AMG Petronas Esports car of Mark Pitchick, that is so far on 16th. He's also looking to improve. He had a great first sector. Little one was not as optimistic, or leaves us not as optimistic as the first one, though. Let's see when he comes across the line. 140.8, that's currently what he needs to aim for, and he gets a 149, putting him on 3rd position. This is going now 1 by 1. We see the entire grid being changed again, and to be honest, right now, I don't know if Bonnehaus will actually end up on pole here.
I'd suggest, by the way, Bonnehaus is starting his final lap of the race. We should probably take a look around as Kuba Brzezinski jumps across the line in 16th spot at the moment for Williams Esports, goes up into 9th place, of course, subbing in for Martin Stefanko. Kevin Siggy, who we're riding on board with, look at those sector times. I'm just going to point out one thing when it comes to Maguire right now. The middle sector of Maguire is faster than anyone else. It was purple, but it's purple by a good margin. A tenth quicker than even Siggy's middle sector here, showing how fast that car, probably a bit more downforce bolted onto the Wolves machine. Kevin Siggy across the line at a track where he does quite well. Remember when Spa was brand new back in Season 2 of GT Pro? Took both race wins, race 1 and race 2 at this track, so certainly one that he goes well at, and, well, that shows why.
It's crazy now seeing the times tumbling here, and as you said, they're already quicker drivers than Kevin Siggy, but I said that in GT Pro Series, Kevin Siggy is one of the best drivers out there, and as soon as I see him racing, it's astonishing. It's just great to watch him in action, and I'm super happy having him here in the Formula Pro Series as well, because I'm pretty sure he will be in for some good entertainment for everyone out there. Bono House currently not the quickest in the first sector, but he does so in the middle sector. Seems like he is on the hunt to get that pole position off Kevin Siggy's hands immediately. And it's not just pole in Spa here. It's the very first pole position for a brand new championship, and a great signal to everyone else in the championship what's your perspective for the season.
Yeah, absolutely. You want to start it off in the strongest way, in a pole position here in the series, which might actually be quite tricky to overtake at. We'll have to wait and see when it comes to that. We're in the realm of the unknown. Across the line, it's enough for Bonner House, and back up onto pole position. Dethrones Kevin Siggy by a tenth of a second. The first pole position looking good for this fight towards the end of the session, but we know they can go faster. 40.5s are on the table. 2015 FSR World Champion out of final corner for Williams Esports. Joined that outfit last year, or at the start, realistically, of this year. 16th position only. Certainly not what he would have wanted. Is that session done, though? I think that might be the first lap of the session for Burdak. Certainly is. Interesting to see that Bonner House has completed his second lap already. He's done for the session. He cannot improve on that 40.682.
And that gives everyone else the chance that is on the track, while Kasper Stolzer comes across the line to dive down to 17th position right now. Liam De Wall, that's the teammate of Adam Maguire that we had the camera a bit earlier for Wolf's GR Esports. He had a great middle sector in this one, basically balancing out his first one. Comes across the line, 140.7, also going up to second, sending Siggy and Yoyovsky further down. And everyone now with a great middle sector really rub it in here, and they get quite quick.
Look at that second sector from Jeffrey Rietveld. This is pole position incoming. I'm telling you that. Is it going to be a mid-40? It certainly is. A 40.560. And Team Redline head to the top of the session. Wow, what a lap time that is for Liam DeVow. I'm almost a little bit concerned, although I'll carry that one over to Redline. Was that I was thinking that middle sector, them doing so well there, is that down to the downforce differential between the cars? Maybe they've put on a bit more to go faster in that middle sector, and they were going to be a sitting duck on that straight down into Lake Who knows? Red Bull Racing Esports, Dennis Jordan across the line, race winner yesterday in the Formula Sim Racing World Championship at this venue. He crosses the line only 8th at the moment.
Yeah, currently waiting for the wings that he needs to get into the top 5. So does Mohamed Patel here for BS competition, for Burgozit competition. That a new team in, I would say, because we didn't have them in GT Pro Series, if I'm not mistaken. They should have been in Challenge the previous season. So a team from the south of Germany, Munich, and Patel still looking for a strong first lap with 2 green sectors only, I have to say, in this case, after we saw so many purples coming in here very late in the qualification, last 5 minutes basically. Let's see if he can improve, diving to 7th, not bad at all, I would say. And I wonder if there are drivers now waiting, maybe, or rolling a bit to have that last shot here in the session. Erniowski currently at the verge of the top 5 for Romain Esports, and I'm pretty sure after his disastrous season in the GT Pro Series, he wants to make up for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And what better way to do it than with immediate effect? Currently in 5th spot and on his final lap of the session. Sessions completed for the likes of Jeffrey Rietveld and Bono House. They are done for the day. 5 minutes left on the qualifying. They've already completed their allotted number of laps. This is Erhan Yovski's final time in the session, and it's not seemed like the cleanest final sector for the Macedonian. What is it across the line? Yeah, that kind of spells it out for you. I'm not really surprised by that. Lost a bit of time in that final sector. Pulls a little bit further clear of Marko Pajic in 5th spot, but realistically he would have wanted better. Kevin Siggy has just started his final lap. Pajic is on his out lap, so all the drivers getting ready now in the final 5 minutes of the session to begin it again, but traffic out there is looking pretty thick.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's so hard to tell now who gets the best shot out of this. But it's everyone's game still, right? I mean, this is the very first qualification, but we also have to keep in mind they can't change the setups. They can't go from qualification to race. So maybe some of the cars are set up for one fast lap, and we will see a huge difference then once we go into the race session.
Yeah, that's it. You know, you can pick. How many times have we spoken about this? We speak about this all the time around venues like this, where it's such a differential between what you can pick on setup. As Kevin Siggy's last lap, by the way, has ended at corner with no name, so a little bit behind this. He is done for the session. Will be 4th spot at the absolute highest. But you take a high downforce setup around a track like this, and it works in qualifying. But in the race, you're a sitting duck. What is it for Adam Maguire? Terrible middle sector, down half a second. I think 8th place might be as good as it gets for the Wolf GRE sports car. They've done very well in this session, though. Up in 3rd spot with Liam Deval. Maguire a little bit further back, but still, I'm pretty sure they'll be content with that. Looking good for the opening one of the season.
That's problematic now. I kind of feel like there's a lot of traffic on the track right now, which makes it hard for the drivers to get that ideal lap time in. Maguire obviously wants to improve, but as I said already, a top 10 for the Wolves GR coming in here, I think that's absolutely acceptable, especially looking at the grid that we have here. We got one of those Ruben Correa Alves slow-mos maybe on this one. Why is he running into traffic here? That is a drift. Yep, that costs a ton of time on these cars, and luckily there's only qualification, so that set of tires gets thrown away afterwards anyway.
Yeah, that was the Fordzilla car directly ahead. Might have distracted him a wee bit, nothing too much. Potentially it was Gianmarco Fiducci who's just started his final lap, the Italian touring car specialist elsewhere in sim racing, as Danny Kish comes across the line. 15th spot for him. Casper Stolzer 23rd at the moment, but if there's someone who will excite the grid, Cam was alluding to that, it would be Casper Stolzer. He knows how to get out there and do a bit of racecraft. He'll be putting on a show from us down from 23rd spot. Peter Berliak, final sector of the racetrack. Once again, though, losing a lot of time in that middle sector, and half a second, it sounds like a lot of time. I was going to say, it doesn't sound like too much, but realistically, when you speak of how close to grid, if you're not good in the final sector, might improve him inside the top 20, but I'm not sure it'll be much better than that. It's to 16th spot, so a fair improvement, but not exactly what we'd expect out of someone who's so good in open wheelers.
Yeah, he's a big name, and he's known to open wheeler racing, but we'll see that also the Red Bull Racing Esports team is struggling a bit, even though Alex Siegel can improve up to 12th position with 141. But we know you have to be 140 mid. That's what you're aiming for now if you want to play with the big boys there in the first row. Jerry Tolman currently still out there. That doesn't look like a lap that could contest for pole position here. So far it's still Team Redline and then the AMG Petronas Esports team. As he said, they might work back together in the background. Kind of like the Academy teams in Formula 1 maybe, right? It could be quite similar in this case.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see what Yuri Toman can do across the line. He's up in 14th spot, way ahead of his teammate who's yet to set a time in the session. We saw the earlier issues for Marcel Cinchik across the line. There is no improvement, and it is 14th spot for Varga as we roll back down the grid on board with his teammate Marcel Cinchik. Decent in the first sector, but it seemed to be the middle sector as Mohamed Patel goes up into 3rd. The final moments of the session, his teammate hasn't qualified. Alan Terzic is going to be starting from the final spot of the grid, the final row of the grid, with Nuno Pinto, the Team Fordzilla driver. A bit of a surprise as to why they're starting back there, maybe just trying to keep out of the trouble. I know Alan Terzic hasn't put the most amount of work into this, not as much in comparison to everyone else, but is determined to improve as the season progresses. Marcel Cinchik then, final sector, looking pretty good.
He wants to improve 24th. There's still a lot in for him because we know that Cinchik can do better than that. He should be able to go inside the top 15 maybe with what he's doing, or even top 10, nearly top 10, with slotting 11th right behind Jan van der Heide for Rocket Sim Sport. And if we currently look at the starting order, that's as mixed up as it can get, right? I mean, there's not a single team dominating this currently. There's one from every team, kinda, within the top 10.
Yeah, with it, I mean, there is that caveat that Bono House is a Team Redline driver, a bit of an affiliation there, but he'll be driving for himself and for his own team. So make no mistake, it's not as if he's going to walk over and allow Rietveld to run away. They are fighting it. Liam de Waal, the final lap of the session, said that middle sector was so impressive from the Dutchman. Once again, it's very impressive. Comes out of Curve Pool Frere on that run towards Blanchimont. This could be very good. Are we about to get an upset in the very first qualifying session of the season? Could get onto the podium, dethroning the likes of 5-time FSR World Champion Bono House could even beat Jeffrey Rietveld. Oh, it's a little bit dicey through the final chicane. Let's see what the exit's like. Lighting up that power, going through the rear tyres across the line. Is it going to be pole position? It is not. Gets back up into third, beats Mohamed Patel. But that was, again, another impressive lap from Leon Duval. That is high pressure.
Hopefully make Aidan Milward happy, I would say, in terms of bringing Wolves up there in the second row and third position. That's a great starting point, I would say, especially at Spa-Francorchamps. We have to keep in mind that coming up with Rouge Radio and then go onto that long straight, and that might be the first moment for people to go side by side, 3 wide. Right, we saw that in GT Pro. That can happen very, very quickly. I'm just so keen on finally seeing the kickoff of this remarkable series. I mean, I was there during the development of the car, saw the first screenshots of it, and now we're seeing it racing for the very first time on this broadcast.
Yeah, we'll see them do a formation up. We'll see them do a standing start. And putting all that power down onto the track is going to be hard work. They'll, as much as they've got all the grip they could possibly ask for, it's never enough on a standing start with the incredible engine, the incredible power. That noise on the grid is going to be exceptional. This is what they're playing for when it comes to, we're speaking it more of a team. The relegation and stuff is more focused on the team side as opposed to what we have in GT Pro and GT Challenge. $5,000 to the team that wins the championship. So it's more focused on that side of things and trying to find the limit and working together as a team. And that's why you won't see Team Redline working with Mercedes, with Bono House and Jeffrey Rietveld at the front. They are playing for their own money, and it's an enormous amount of prize money as well.
It definitely is, and I love that we're now focusing on teams. But you said already, we've got GT Pro, where it's kind of about the drivers, even though we highlight the teams a lot. But here, a team wants to win. You want to make sure that your teammate does well in all of these races, and that might even bring new strategy into it, right? Sometimes you might be willing to give up a single point to your teammate in order to score better along the line of the team championship. So it will be interesting to see with that dynamic we bring in of the teams. We once again get the race series format, as this is obviously the very first round. We just had the 20-minute qualification, which now means that we're heading into a 60-minute race. There will be a warm-up lap, and more interestingly, there will be a standing start, and that's something, at least in let's say my career sim race, even if I'm not really actively racing anymore, I didn't do a standing start for quite a while. And that is something that really puts pressure on those drivers now in the very first race.
Okay, I was about to panic then. Because they have just started the race, but I'm pretty sure that race control is going to step in there because that's not how it should have been done. But they are going to, I think, restart the race either way. Interesting, a little bit of a session for them to understand a bit better as to how things have gone on. And to be honest, if you've had a little bit of a practice start, you now understand who's starting best and who's making the most of the early part of the race and who's going on the attack from the off.
It definitely helps to understand what everyone is capable of, but it might also be down to if they're using manual clutch, right? We know nowadays steering wheels often feature dual pedals on the back that they're allowed to do that to get the biting point right. So I just love it because a standing start, everyone gets away, right? Everyone kind of has a similar pace normally, because that's maybe one driver that's kind of sleeping on his wheel at that moment. But standing start is really kind of like a roulette at the beginning of the race, and I'm absolutely loving that. And it will be cool. And all of these tracks that we see, we are in round 1, 19th of July. That's where we're at right now. And then 2nd of August, when we head over to Silverstone, that just had a not so famed open wheeler event. Not as famous as the Formula Pro Series, just happening there in real life. Kind of saw it somewhere off the internet. And then heading over to the Nürburgring, obviously GP track, we're not visiting the Nordschleife. And I think the race where I can't really see what's happening at all in first lap, for me, is kind of Zandvoort, because that's where I have the least amount of experience in terms of watching races.
One thing I will say when it comes to the race start here is, in comparison to some of the other circuits on the season, is that if you have I'm not going to say a poor launch, but if you have a not so great launch, you've got an instant recovery point because it's a heavy braking zone into La Source, and then you've got that enormous run where it's focusing on the driver there. That's the most important part of the race start. Meanwhile, you think of Monza, for example, that exceptionally long run, Indianapolis as well, Nürburgring, you've got these long runs down to turn 1 where by that point in the season they have to be nailing the start every single time.
If you lose out on this one on lap 1, it will be very hard to fight back. Not just because it's all about ground force, so DRS is not giving you the NOS fast the Furious effect basically on the straight, but also because it's such a tight grid. I mean, we just witnessed the very first qualification. That was already a drama in itself. Going through there one by one won't be easy. I mean, at this championship with a reverse grid that we're using in GT Pro, I'm not quite sure if that would work that well with a ton of grid that we have here and the experience in racecraft.
I can only tell you what happened in the race start that just happened. I mean, it's a practice, which is I do like the idea that we get a little bit of a form as to see what's happening on the starts. Now, this is the thing, is that to start a car this is difficult. Now, if there's one thing that that people forget about in practice, people tend to forget about pit lane entries on practice. You get to the start of the race and think, oh yeah, I should probably do that. I should give that a go once. There's a hard pit lane entry here. But race starts is one that you kind of almost put into the back of your mind. You'll give it a go, you'll see it a couple of times, you think, there you go, that technique kind of works. To be honest, I would suggest to quite a lot of these people is if you get a group of people, sit down for 20 minutes, half an hour, whatever it is, and find the best way to start these cars, because it's hard work and it's worth so much.
But even with all the practice, we know practice makes perfect, right? And at one point you nail most of your starts, but if we remember back in especially the old times in terms of open wheeler racing and where standing starts were quite complicated, you can do ton of training. It's never 100%. You're never always getting that perfect start. It's not like Mario Kart where you basically know at which counter to accelerate to get that boost start. Not happening here, right? So all of these drivers do have to rely on their experience, their feel, right? Also for the grip on this track in particular, but then also a bit of luck actually that it works and that muscle memory is on point at that second.
If there's one thing that I've learned about sim racing and race starts anyway, and I'm sure you've all kind of found the same thing as well when it comes to standing starts, is the best start techniques. You are moments away from disaster when doing it. It's you've got to release your clutch to a certain point just to get that perfect launch off, and it's you're teetering on the point of you're either going to bog or you're going to wheel spin. And those best race starts, there are other ways that you can do it where it's a bit safer. But those ways that get you the great launch, they are high-risk ways of starting.
Yeah, you might end up with winning a position or keeping your pole position. You might end up with being the highlight for the next 2 laps in slow motion, basically bogging at the start and throwing away your front row result of the qualification. So it's not easy, and I wonder if there's anyone maybe in, let's say, mid-pack that decides to go for a more not simplified approach, but less risky one, making sure that you just get away from the line, because there's also the risk if you're not getting away from the line properly. What's with the car behind you? If he has a great start, launching like a rocket, then it might end your race.
How much risk do you think they're willing to take at the early point of the race? Considering, it's a car we do expect to see quite a few overtakes at, and Spa is quite a raceable track. How much risk is there going to be?
Kevin Ziggy is probably currently evaluating the risk he's taken, and he's probably considering something between 140% to 132%. I think that's kind of what Kevin Ziggy is on. At least I hope so, because I absolutely love his maneuvers. And then there are other drivers, right? Michi Hoyer, for example. I would put him towards the drivers that are willing to take the risk to have a highlight start in the very first race. And then there are drivers that, at least from their experience, like Bonner Housewell would say, okay, maybe he's not going 100% because he believes in himself and his pace across the entire race, right? He might not rely so heavily on a very, very good start.
Absolutely, and the thing is points. Let's talk about points. Let's touch on that, because there are points for all of the positions. It starts at 30. I think it's all of the positions anyway. It starts at 35 at the top. It would be for 26. So 35 points, 30, 28, 27, 26, 30, 25, 24, 3, 2, 1, all the way down to 5 points for 26 spots. There are points for all of these positions, but that just means that when you're battling, if you've qualified, say for example 22nd, you've had a disappointing qualifying session, there's now value in making up, because you don't have to think, maybe I can get inside the top 10 or whatever. It's like, no, just make up as many positions as you can and score points. If you get up to 12th, you get up to 12th. If you get up to 8th, you get up to 8th. Just go and score some points.
I love that because we want to see racing around every single position out there, right? Sometimes the best racing we see is not around first place, right? Because sometimes they run away and not even on camera that often. So I love that this championship gives value to every single position, and it's the kickoff of a brand new series. It's placed right next to the GT Pro Series, which we had for 3 seasons by now, and I think it established itself as the prime GT series out there when it comes to sim racing in general, and rFactor 2 obviously. And now bringing this open wheeler series to life, absolutely love that. Super happy that there's a second Pro Series directly from rFactor 2, and the quality we saw so far from racing, from the entire championship, now with these brand new V10 naturally aspirated Formula cars, can't get better than that.
Yeah, let's touch on GT Pro, because in fact, like you say, we had 3 seasons of that, same with GT Challenge, and we'll have the same Formula Challenge as well with this. Obviously, it's more of a team-based thing when it comes to relegation. The bottom 2 teams in the championship will be dropped down. The top 2 teams of Formula Challenge will be promoted up. So it's more that team-based structure. It's not about drivers singular, which I like. I like that spicing up. It's not just copying and pasting. I like the fact that we're doing something different, more set in a Formula thing. But the only real form book that we have to go off, realistically, is that of GT Pro. Now, you brought up the fact that Erhan Yovski's had a disappointing season in Season 3, has been dropped out of GT Pro. Does that make him more hungry here to come back and fight at the front?
I hope so, to be honest. I mean, I was disappointed seeing him dropping down of Pro. On the other hand, I think it was necessary, looking back at his season. I think even if that might be a bit leaning out of the window too much, as we would say in Germany, but I think he could have done better than that, and he could have stayed in Pro. But now he's in Formula Pro, which means 100% focus on this series. And I want to see the old Erhan Yovski that was basically the man to beat. But in open wheelers, there are a few other names, right? That would be right next to that remarkable name of Yovski. So it will be quite interesting to see if he can be a dominant factor here, if he can live up to the glory. He's a great driver. He's still the best, or one of the best, when we talk about rFactor 2, and not taking that away from him at all, even if he isn't in GT Pro. And I want to see him being a contestant for the championship here.
Yeah, one of the greatest of all time is Erhan Yovski at present, and the amount that he can do in sim racing knows almost no bounds. But he does have to take on some of the very, very best indeed. Brought up Bonahouse's record, a 5-time Formula Sim Racing world champion. Then left rFactor 2 proceedings to head over onto the iRacing stratosphere, and then bailed from that and took part in F1 Esports, etc. Is a driver who knows open wheelers like the back of his hand. I've seen him race in other things. It's just not the most common thing to see him do. Let's take a look at the race starting order then for the first round of the season. Pole position goes to the person that topped practice as well. Jeffrey Rietveld from Bono House. Liam DeVal on the front, on the second row of the grid for Wolves GR Esports, just deposing Mohammed Patel in the final moments of the session. Then it's Kevin Siggy who's going to be on the attack with Erhan Yovski. Those two have battled for championships time and time again. What are they going to do from the third row? Marco Pajic and Michi Hoyer line up from 7th and 8th. Great qualifying session from Michi Hoyer to beat his teammate, and very comfortably indeed. Adam Maguire and Jan van der Heijden, our Season 3 GT Pro champion, line up inside the top 10, with Vargas Sim Racing's late improvement for Marcel Chinchik just heading Dennis Jordan. Alex Siebel and Jakub Brzezinski, super sub for Williams Esports with Yuri Toman and Manuel Biancalilla. Said before that he was the runner-up in GTE of the Le Mans Virtual, down in 16th spot. Denny Kish behind his teammate up there for Rocket Sim Sports, the 2015 FSR World Champion Petr Berliak from 18th spot. Risto Capit, never a race win in GT Pro. Can he do the same thing here? I wonder if he can change that. Gianmarco Fiducci in 20th. Yone Simic much further down than we would have expected, with Giordano Valeriano, Jordis Veers and Casper Stoltz at 23rd and 24th. Disappointment for the Jean Alesi Esports Academy squad. And the final row of the grid, the drivers that did not qualify, Nuno Pinto and Alan Terzic. A lot of those drivers down the back end of the field are going to go out there and try and have a bit of a fun start, I think, and try and work their way up the order. I think we might see some chaotic affairs down into turn 1.
I mean, they're good drivers. Back then, we shouldn't give people a different impression, right? I mean, Alan Terzic is a great driver. On the other hand, I have to say, Jean Alesi Esports kind of starting like they left off in the GT Pro series, and Alan Terzic was a driver of Jean Alesi previously, if I remember correctly, right? So it's kind of that lineup there for the last 2 rows, and I really hope to see Terzic going through this. It's a 1-hour race, it's 1 mandatory pit stop, and he can be an aggressive driver, and he can put in some great moves. And I like the livery. It's another thing. He has competition, the team from Munich. So I'm totally fine with seeing him in more highlights.
Yeah, absolutely looks fantastic. Ted, you're absolutely right. Was a part of the Jean Alesi Esports Academy. In fact, actually, the last time that when they raced here in GT Challenge, his final race for Jean Alesi Esports Academy was a race victory as well, starting from the back of the grid with Nuno Pinto, who's been impressive in GT Pro as well. But then again, saying, oh, he's been impressive in GT Pro. Well, we can say that about half the grid, especially those that have been in GT Pro in general. It's a fantastic grid, and I'm sure we're going to get a thrilling 60 minutes of racing here.
Absolutely sure, as long as we survive the very first sector, maybe, because it's the first racer for all of these guys, and it'll be interesting to see how well that works. Bonnehaus, not the pole setter in the very first race of the Formula Pro Series, but it is Jeffrey Rietveld from Team Redline. So I'm pretty much sure we will have a happy Dom Duin in the background, hoping for basically all of his drivers in row 1 to do well. But they're driving down into the hairpin. That is a crucial moment for all of the drivers, especially for the later ones, as they dive in right into that group that is on the brakes already. And let's see if all of that works. Nuno Pinto, he had very bad GT Pro seasons, even though he's an amazing driver that had quite a better season in Season 3, I would say. And now he's looking for a decent start for Fordzilla in the first season of Formula Pro. But misses a few spots at least now.
Wow, all the Dutch drivers towards the front end of the field is Rietveld from Bonnehaus, Liam de Waal and Mohamed Patel behind. We are underway for the first round in the rFactor 2 Formula Pro Series, powered by Traction.gg. And around the outside, your 5-time world champion was trying to make it stick on Jeffrey Rietveld. Didn't make it, so it's a Team Redline leading down the hill. Kevin Siggy already on the attack, trying to get by Mohamed Patel as we head down towards Eau Rouge for the first time. It's a fantastic start from Kevin Siggy, working his way up the order and already through side-by-side. Crazy action. And Yovski's through as well.
Yeah, Yovski, he was basically using the chance there that Kevin Siggy opened for him, because they both went side by side into it. Would cost a lot of time. Now the very first time for them to get into the chicane, still side by side here between Maguire and Jan van der Heijden. Luckily, nothing happened there. Van der Heijden is going very wide there after the chicane. Hopefully he can come back to the tarmac here. We don't want to see him losing now. He's in 12, so it seems like nothing bad happened. But Jakub Brzezinski, the stand-in here, already very close to the top 10.
Yeah, I think there was that chaotic run through Malmedy, a bit of contact between Maguire and Jan van der Heijden, drops van der Heijden down towards 12th spot, as you were absolutely right. At Les Combes, though, around the outside, Bonnehaus takes the lead of the opening race of the season ahead of Jeffrey Rietveld and Liam de Waal. I said it was Dutch drivers all at the front, all of these flying the flag of the country, which is not that far away from here, and they'll desperately want to win on what is as near as makes no difference, still home soil. Let's take a look at how that move was affected. Just slipstream. That run from La Source all the way up towards Les Combes on the Camel Straight and around the outside. Absolute perfection.
Both drivers managed it very well, but the big question is, should have Rietveld maybe waited after they went side by side, give it to Bonnehaus to then take it back on the Camel Straight, because he probably knew that was happening in slipstream, but he chosen to stay on first, and now he has to pay the price for it. Jan van der Heijden now up to 11th after dropping down to 12th. Nuno Pinto 25th, and there was another Fordzilla car in the background, if I saw that correctly, but all eyes for now on the two front runners, on Bonnehaus and Jeffrey Rietveld, as Jeffrey could close the gap once again. He is same position where he lost the lead, but it's not enough here. And that's what we talked about, right? There's not much you win on these cars. They're great for following up closely, but it also means that slipstream is not the magic item that gets you onto whatever position you might desire.
Oh, bit of a move. I might need to take a look back at that one. Dennis Jordan, I think, went around the outside of Marco Pajic going through Malmedy and promotes himself up into 9th position. Jan van der Heijden as well, got by Jakub Brzezinski on the Camel Straight as well. Bit of a switching towards the back. You're absolutely right. Fordzilla driver at the rear end of the field, Gianmarco Fiducci for Team Fordzilla. Let's take a look at what happened. This is Nuno Pinto. There's Gianmarco Fiducci looking to the inside of one of the Musto GD Esports drivers, and then gets a tap from Alan Terzic and, was that Kasper Stolzer rather, running through, and that's Gianmarco Verducci sent to the rear end of the field. I was chatting to him the other day and said that he's more here as a learning experience. Hasn't really raced much on rFactor 2, more raced in touring cars as the Cupra Sim Racing Series Championship leader elsewhere in sim racing, and a driver who's come to the fore a little bit in touring car styles, and just trying to learn more and more as time goes on, and fantastic to see him taking part in this championship.
Yeah, that tapping on the rear works a bit better on the front-wheel driven touring cars he was used to, but doesn't work with the open wheel. As well, we see another approach here by, what's that, Valeriano, on Peter Bielek, but it did not work. So Bielek stays up in front with Kasper Stolzer right behind that wants to make a move and might look up the inside now for the hairpin, but not going for it. They might just, well, once again, wait for the camel straight, lock right behind, but he doesn't though. Look at Kasper Stolzer going side by side. Immediately they might go for a Rouge side by side once again.
Whoa, that's brave. That is absolutely brave. Jordi Zwiers is also going to sweep through. Just pushed off the road a little bit there from Valeriano. I don't think Valeriano expected Zwiers to come with such speed, trying to make up the position. And close friend of Jordi Zwiers, Alan Terzic, is sat in the background. Is there going to be a dive? Oh, it's snapped off from the front end by Giordano Valeriano, chopping the nose, and Terzic has gone round. Terzic around at Lecom, and down the field he'll go.
Yeah, you might tap the rear there of Zwiers, just slightly, and then threw away the car. All was under braking during the corner. Obviously that shifts all the way to the front, and then the rear end gets quite light, and after that he just lost it. He has to recover it for now. This is the fight still between Valeriano from Musto GD Esports against the Jean Alesi Esports Academy driver that is Jordi Zwiers. That's half a second off gap to Nuno Pinto, so that should give him enough room to try to maneuver around Valeriano, but Valeriano not weak at all currently in terms of the pace that he can do.
Yeah, this is looking fantastic though for Bono House at the front of the field, leading by 0.6 of a second over Jeffrey Rietveld. Those two, I spoke before because they're, like I said, they're technically teammates at Team Redline, in a sense that Bono House is a Team Redline driver, although again driving for Mercedes in this, and so driving for himself. Those two, I did bring this up a little bit before when I was speaking to Cam Roger before this. Those two were teammates back in sister teams back in the Formula Sim Racing World Championship 10 years ago. They have been driving with each other for a while in sim racing. Jordi Zwiers into the pit lane in the early stages. They do have a mandatory stop to complete. They'll have to take tyres, fuel, etc. Brave to come in this early now.
Yeah, it might have been something wrong with his car already. Also the tyres maybe, and he's just taking the pit stop very early, and then hopefully get a set of stuff that can survive the rest of the race. While we see Daniel Kiss under pressure right now by Peter Bielek around the outside into the chicane that did not work, cut off there on the way back, and the Rocket Sim Sport driver has to step back, but that's not true. He's actually in front of Peter Bielek, obviously, so he can stay there, but there's quite a gap already to the rest of the top 20. That's the replay of Alan Terzic. Did he tap the front? Yeah, he tapped the front, the back end, the car in front, and then just turned around. It's also, it does not look like a brand new open wheeler for the very first lap, I would say.
It looks pretty scraped up there. BS competition. Alan Terzic, the Slovenian, said that he was more looking to affect progress across the season. As I said before, hasn't put in the most amount of work. I'm not saying that he hasn't put in any work, because I know he has put in a fair amount, but in comparison to the likes of Dennis Jordan, I was chatting to him yesterday, and I know that we were chatting, he was like, 700-800 laps, and he was like, more. They've put in so much work into a championship, guys. Of course you would with this kind of money on the line. It's $250 per round for the driver, the race winner, driving-wise. There's prize money up for all of those positions. But then, of course, that $5,000 for winning the team's championship, which they're desperate to do so. For Red Bull Racing Esports, they might be a little bit disappointed with how things are running right now. I know Dennis Lind is watching this with a close eye, team manager of them, and might be a little bit uncomfortable with how things are, but we don't know the form book. We're still learning how things are running as Dennis Jordan's going to try and get by Adam Maguire.
Also, another thing that we might want to highlight while we see Dennis Jordan probably going to tack Adam Maguire right now. Yeah, that was an easy pass right before the braking zone. Nothing happened there. But as you said, they might not be super happy with the positions they have, but looking at the standings, Team Redline probably the best team as of right now, because they have two drivers in the top 8. But look at the Wolf guys. They're sitting on 3rd and 9th, so not bad either. Way better than Vargas Sim Racing, for example. So since this is about Team team points. We have to keep an eye on that while we see the start of Journey Simoncic. See how he got away here. It looked like a decent start. Oh, someone from Vargas Sim Racing, Chinchik probably, completely missed the start there, and everyone else had to go around it.
Yeah, just to confirm, that is actually Yannis. And did you know it says Hoyer on the shield? It's not so great that it says Hoyer on the halo, but I'm pretty sure he's potentially just joined in the wrong car, because he has joined in the 10, which is obviously Michi Hoyer's favoured number. So a little bit of a mistake there from Simoncic, but he's not quite affecting the same speed. I was saying that Michi Hoyer is a little bit ahead of him, although he's just been squeezed off a little bit on the run down into the final chicane by Manuel Biancalilla. This is the battle for 10th spot. Marco Pajic, who was more expecting to start and move forward. The driver of Mercedes-AMG drives also for Marla in the ADAC GT Masters Esports Championship. A lot of pressure on his shoulders from a driver who is exceptionally consistent in open wheelers, a driver who knows how to move through a field and always kind of end up somewhere into the top 5. So I'd suspect that Alex Siebel will be marching into the top 10 in a moment's notice. There's the move on Pajic, and I don't know about you, straight line speed for the Red Bulls looking pretty handy right now.
Yeah, they're definitely quick. I mean, this is the second overtaking in the 2 laps that we see on the same spot. I mean, it's helping with all that slipstream and not taking away from that. Well, Marco Pajic gets a bit sketchy out of the corner over the curb there. But yeah, they both moved up 1 position. Dennis Jordan and his teammate got another position while we jump on board with Jeffrey Redfield behind Bonner House. And, oh yeah, that was a bit too late under braking. I mean, it looks good for a few seconds on camera, right? You're really close to the lead all of a sudden, but he's not coming out of the winner as the winner of that hairpin. Dropping behind Bonner House, but it's still below a second. So depending on, that's another thing we did not talk about yet, right? Depending on what their pit strategy is, and when they actually want to come in, they might run at least a few differences in terms of fuel, tire strategy, or even setup.
Well, if there's one driver who knows how to strategize in an open wheel race like that, it is Jean Alesi Esports. I know he's a bit further down the order, and maybe we'll just look to move a bit further up. But obviously, in this sense, you want to run quite a heavy car right now. And we don't know the fuel loads that they're running right now. They can refuel in the pit stop, as far as I've been told. So when they come in to refuel, depending on how much they're running, some drivers might be running around in a heavier car right now, when they may stick in a little bit less fuel, a little bit less of this, a little bit less of that. When you come in to do an undercut, there's so much to play for in terms of strategy. Just want to say as well, fastest lap of the race did come not on the lap that's just been completed, but on the lap before, from this driver's teammate Alex Siebel in 10th spot now. Here goes Dennis Jordan to pass yet another Marcel Chinchik after that fantastic late qualifying. And let's be honest, fantastic start to the race for Vargas Sim Racing, up to 8th, or up to 7th rather, and now dropped back down to 8th as Dennis Jordan's affecting his charge.
Yeah, so it wasn't Chinchik with that awful start for Vargas Sim Racing. It was Jerry Tolman that had that problematic get away from the line, but we see that the Red Bull cars currently are quite quick. I mean, they've taken spot after spot. I think that was the 3rd in a row now that we saw. Yeah. We didn't saw any other overtaking in between. And luckily, the Mercedes and the Red Bull did not touch when they went for it. So yeah. I think that's a good start into this race. But yeah, they definitely got a setup that's right now very, very quick. I mean, Dennis Jordan is already lined up to take down the next driver, which would be Kevin Siggy of Team Redline.
This is a superb drive from Dennis Jordan right now. This is where I'd assume they might be running a lighter car or something to that effect, because the speed they have right now is absolutely incredible. So maybe it might be a longer stop. Who knows? They do like to, as I think David Carter was saying actually, they do like to make a car that is slippery, that is good for overtaking. They've had their fair share of open-wheeled racing since I'm thinking back 2013, 2014. Oh, but deep there from Dennis Jordan, nearly cleared off the rear wing of Kevin Siggy as well as we head down the hill towards Eau Rouge. I mean, I raced Dennis Jordan back in open wheelers in 2016. It's come a long way since then, but a driver who's very, very comfortable and knows how to put apart a setup and strategy over a long-distance race like this.
They definitely have that experience, and it will pay off at one point. Might not be at Spa, but at some point during the championship, kind of set up for Dennis Jordan now. Obviously, he put Kevin Siggy in the right spot for him to then take him down on the camel straight once again, but with that mistake at La Source, it cost him the chance to do it this lap. Bonnehaus still leading, but it's now down to 0.5. He had been close to 0.7 of the gap between him and Jeffrey Riedfeld previously. So maybe Riedfeld a bit quicker on the last lap, but more or less constant distance between these two. And they still have 45 minutes, more than that, to go in this race. So you don't have to force it. You can wait for the right moment to do that overtake.
Yeah, absolutely. I will say when it comes to lap times, the leaders, the top two running 43.7, 43.6. The only other drivers running in the 43s, well, that's the Red Bull Racing cars. The ones running in 7th and 9th, 43.3 on the previous lap from Alex Siebel, as he'll try and pass Marcel Cinchik later, potentially even on the next lap. I don't think he's quite close enough for that, as we're riding on board with Michi Hoyer trying to get by Jan van der Heide. Those two have raced with each other quite a bit, as here goes a move from Mohamed Patel, defending rather from Kevin Siggy, and the harder they fight, they were quite close to the rear end of Erhan Yovski, and Dennis Jordan is now waiting.
Yeah, it's like Patel basically sets up Kevin Siggy now for Dennis Jordan. I have to highlight that again, since you've just said Red Bull Racing. It's, by the way, Red Bull Esports.
Red Bull Racing Esports, yeah.
Yeah, otherwise, Niels Naujoks will probably send out a DM right at that moment telling us that it is Esports. Niels, no worries, we didn't forget about it, but we can also not forget about Kevin Siggy, who's trying to launch an attack on Mohamed Patel, and trying is not the right word, as he just successfully did so. And now Dennis Jordan is all over the back of Patel. The BS competition driver is the team from Munich in the south of Germany that has to defend against the Red Bull powerhouse, Red Bull Racing Esports, of Dennis Jordan. Do we get the replay of that maneuver? No, it's about the defensive line from Mohamed Patel into the bus stop chicane. Let's see. Oh, Kevin Siggy was basically already through, and then Mohamed Patel had the better apex there. He could drop the car into the banking a bit more traction out of the corner, and got his position back. Great racing there.
I chatted about this yesterday, is that necessarily you don't actually want to pass going into the final chicane, because the moment that you do, you're inviting them to just get straight back past you into a Les Combes. And so I'm not going to say that Siggy backed out of it in a sense, but maybe didn't commit to it quite as hard as he could have done. Siggy's raced a lot in varying cars, not just open wheelers, GTs, of course, said two-time runner-up in GT Pro in Season 1 and 2, countless winners in everything else, a winner in the McLaren Shadow Project of 2019, a driver that has jumped about in sim racing, not just from rFactor 2, rFactor 1, iRacing, ACC, whatever it is, whatever you can think of as a sim, he has done it all and been competitive, and always seems to come back to us and is mighty fast. This is Michi Hoyer's move on Jan van der Heide, gets around the outside through the Kemmel curve, which is a smart move because you get slipstream from the car ahead who's not going to really respond, and Jan van der Heide, smartly in the 22 fantastic livery from, no bias, Rocket Sim Sport, just easily through.
I just hope for a Butler Motorsport teams returning in Season 2 then. Maybe to see that
livery, by the way, in Formula Challenge.
Yeah, you will see it on Friday in Formula Challenge. But back to the actual race, we also grabbed on that replay a nice shot on the DRS feature that these cars have. I mean, this is the very first race of the season, so we will highlight the different features of the car, of the season, of the series a bit more, making sure that all of our viewers out there know what's happening in this. So once again, to remind everyone, these are V10 naturally aspirated cars, and I saw in chat someone discussing they have halos, even though safety is not really an issue in sim racing in this case, actually, in terms of if they have halos on or not. But nowadays, I have to say, if these Formula cars do not have halos, you kind of feel like they're not top notch.
It would look a little bit, I don't know, it'd look a little bit weird, a little bit out of place these days. I mean, I think these cars look absolutely fantastic. They look aggressive, they look racy, they look modern, futuristic, but you've got that historic vibe with the scream of a V10. It's an excellent sort of melding of eras. It certainly is lovely to hear, at least in a virtual sense, the V10 noise returning to this historic circuit where they were so prevalent in the past. It's one of those things that, capturing the history, we can do that in sim racing. We can go, we're not just limited by stuff that's in the real world. We can do our own thing. We can chart our own course. That's exactly what we're doing here. Jean Alesi Esports, by the way, it's good to say this, Danny Kish has been in the pit lane for Rocket Esports. Jean Alesi Esports also in the pit lane. So about a driver who knows how to strategize their way through a race. With 42 minutes left to go, maybe an early stop, although we just don't know the form book.
Yeah, it will be very interesting if these are pit stops, because I think they might do better if they can just run on their own now without any traffic. or if something else happened and that's why they dived back. I mean, that happened. The guys of Traction.gg, partners of the series, obviously, they had a nice vote going on in the YouTube chat about when the leaders will pit, and 38% said below 30 minutes into the race. So that will give us another 11 minutes for the leader to pit. By the way, I voted for more than 40 minutes into the race.
I voted halfway. I voted for
halfway.
around 30. Yeah, about
That's
30.
the easy way to go. You're kind of always in some sort of pit stop window if you're halfway through.
Exactly. Well, if I win this race, that's the basic strategy, right? Now, the basic strategy isn't necessarily the one that's going to win you the race, but it is the one that will, potentially just give you a comfortable result. We're not talking about comfortable results here. We're talking about drivers that want to win the race. And so for the likes of that, it's about maybe going for the undercut, maybe going for the overcut, depending on how well you're looking after your tyres for Jeffrey Rietveld against Bunner House. We'll have to wait and see. Michi Hoyer going to make a pass on Wolves, who started out this race so well. They're dropping back bit by bit, or at least Maguire is. And now Michi Hoyer, same as his teammate, responding and coming into the pit lane.
Wondering if that was more... I go into the pits because I threw around the rear of the car anyway. So he kind of looked a bit racy there, coming around the corners. But Michi Hoyer now in the pits, so his mechanics will be hard at work to get him back. Let's see if our leaders are first and second, at least run the same strategy. While we are now with one of the red line cars, that should be Kevin Siggy. No, it's not. It's actually it is Kevin Siggy. I was confusing it with not a black and red, which kind of a nice color combination as of right now in terms of sim racing. But if we're looking at teams now, I said that Wolves guys looking quite strong today, but now we have Bono Howie's leading for AMG, like Mercedes-AMG Petronas Esports, with his teammate being in 10th position, so at least 2 top 10, but Red Bull Racing Esports now in 7th and 8th, and they have a shot at Mohamed Patel very soon, I think.
Yeah, they're working for us. So, I did say that maybe Dennis Lim might be a little bit disappointed. I'm sure he's looking and feeling a lot happier now. Obviously, has a lot of faith in those drivers. Dennis Jordan and Alex Siebel moving over. They were more closely linked to the Burst camp, and I still think they work a little bit. I'm not actually 100% sure as to how it is. They worked a little bit with Burst. Of course, they get along with Jonas Simic very, very well. Racing elsewhere in sim racing, still teammates in various things, doing a lot of endurance racing together. They know each other like the back of each other's hands, and they do get along as a group. They do know how to race hard, and we've seen that a good few times as Alex Siebel bails from this and heads into pit lane, so an earlier stop from them. Things are looking a bit more positive for the camp, but it's Redline who would be leading the team's championship if things were to finish now, as they are running 2nd and 5th and looking very, very good indeed. I'm pretty sure Mercedes will be pretty strong in that. Of course, the biggest difference on points is that for the race lead, 35 plays 30 points. And interesting to see Siebel taking an early stop, see where he comes out.
Yeah, I guess he went for a pit stop because he was right behind Patel in his teammate, right? It seems like he was a bit quicker at the very last laps. And so he can get the pit stop out of the way, get some more clean air, and then really run for his best lap time instead of being stuck in traffic like his teammates. And Jordan is right behind Mohamed Patel. So for right now, Kevin Siggy in front of them, and then it's Ernejovski, a driver that we did not see that much so far. Runs a bit wide there, coming through no name. The left kink 90 degrees, but yeah, Ernejovski so far didn't have any great overtaking opportunity, I would say, but also didn't have to defend that hard. Let's see if Kevin Siggy might be able to close that gap of half a second and attack him very soon.
Just give a shout, by the way, to the texture work on that rear tyre. That looks fantastic. Look at that. Really does look very, very nice. By the way, Siebel out of the pit lane and has come out behind Alan Terzic. Actually came out ahead of Alan Terzic. Terzic made a move before they got down into Eau Rouge, and now trying to fire one through. There's contact between the two. Was alongside. Well, we were wondering if we were going to talk about this today. Alex Siebel trying to get the move done in Poo on different strategies between the two. Terzic just turns in.
Very, very unfortunate there, in a kind of realistic TV program here that we cut away from that immediately when it happened, but I'm absolutely sure the director will get that on your screens very, very soon. There's so much happening on the track, really hard to have your eyes absolutely everywhere, so not blaming anyone here. Ernejovski now in defensive mode, probably, as Kevin Siggy is definitely able to close that gap, and Mohamed Patel a bit further down the line, now with no one right behind him. as the Red Bull Racing Esports car is gone. Kevin Siggy around the outside, and he will probably get that move done even before getting into the braking zone. He does so, yep. And that was an easy one for Kevin Siggy, sending Erniowski down to 5th. Where's Risto Capet, though? We didn't have his teammate on camera at all so far in the very first half of the race, and we're trying to find him in the standings.
15th.
15. Oh, that's why. There he is. Yeah, Risto Capet right behind Peter Bielek, in front of the Mazda GT Esports car. Also, Team Fordzilla, 17th and 19th, so a bit better than they started. And actually found their way back, and since we had a few incidents now already, we're mixing up the grid once again.
Dennis Jordan into the pit lane, by the way, to complete his stop. No traffic ahead of him. The next car down the road is Gianmarco Viducci for Team Fordzilla. We'll take another look at the incident. This is on board with Alex Siebel, and you can see gets alongside, commits it. Maybe you could argue he's missing the apex. Maybe you could argue that Alan Terzic turns in. That's a hard one. That's a tough one. I think the main thing you could argue, I don't think Alex Siebel was far enough alongside, but realistically, he's trying to make a move. He's racing someone that is not actually technically for position. Alan Terzic's yet to stop in this race, and maybe being a bit of a nuisance to Siebel. I wonder if there'll be conversations between Terzic and Dennis Lind after the race, and potentially even Alex Siebel might get involved as well. I'm sure he'll be pretty frustrated after that, and that's going to be a hard thing to come back from.
Yeah, very unfortunate. I mean, if this would have been a fight for position, then you're right. I mean, he wasn't really alongside enough to claim that position up the inside. But on the other hand, Terzic wasn't defending. So he was probably hoping for Alan Terzic to just let that door open and let him through. But it's also a corner that you do not want to overshot, because it's very hard to get the car back to not lose the rear once you go out to the dirt. So probably a bit of... Alan Terzic being afraid of opening up the line there.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to argue, obviously, those two aren't actually, like I said, they're not batting for position, so I know everyone's obviously going to draw the comparisons of yesterday's incident where, read into it what you will. I know my opinion on it, and I'm not going to shoot myself in the foot by suggesting it, but someone missed an apex. We'll go with that. It is what it is. Here, I would argue that Siebel wasn't really missing the apex. He wasn't alongside her. That's the most important thing. And maybe you could say that Terzic shouldn't have turned in. Maybe he shouldn't have gone for a move there. But again, they're racing at the highest level. And was it worth the risk? Was it worth it when you've got better overtaking opportunities around the circuit, like at the chicane, like at Les Combes? You've got other places where you can affect that move. But again, you just don't want to lose any time. And it is what it is. It's happened. Move on and fight another day. This driver continuing to lead. This is his teammate, isn't it? So, Bonnehaus, coming through the first corner, leading the way from Jeffrey Rietveld, 0.6 of a second. I was confused by the BS competition car directly behind, which is Alan Terzic, and I was wondering if this was a bit further down the order, but no. Alan Terzic a lap down in the race, and the first driver to do so, Adam Maguire, into the pit lane.
And it will be very hard for us now to keep track on who had their mandatory pit stop and who hadn't. So we need to keep that in mind, making sure that we know exactly what's happening. And I wonder if Bonnehaus is actually checking his rearview mirror that often. I mean, it's always at half a second gap towards Jeffrey Rietveld from Team Redline. So far, besides the start, he never had to defend that position. We get the replay of Bonnehaus. Instead, it is a slow-mo. Awesome. Look at that. Oh, that texture is on those tires. Looks absolutely incredible. And these cars are just so sexy. I mean, I'm not quite sure. Is this Stream FSK 21 or what do we have to keep in mind? But they are just very, very good looking. And they sound great.
They are very pretty looking. I did a photograph edit in classic fashion. Of course, you got to give it a go of them. They're intensely detailed. They get to the bit where there's some jagged edges on the floor, and I thought, oh god. And it is a bit of a nightmare to get around the photograph. Totally worth it though, because it looks aggressive. It looks mean. It's on the attack, and really is a pretty car. And hopefully we do get this in the real world, or at least something to this effect a bit closer in the real world. No response in the pit lane from Bonnehaus or Jeffrey Rietveld. So they're going to continue on. Same with Liam Deval. Kevin Siggy not going to come in either. He's got a bit of lap traffic with Alan Terzic, a driver he'll know quite well. I said before that Kevin Siggy and Alan Terzic, they teamed up in the V10R Championship not too long ago for BMW. and ended up winning that championship as well, although that was with Romain, and I think Alan will argue that he didn't really add the most to that championship, just sort of drove around and hoped for the best. Siggy did all the work and led them all around. Into the pit lane though, getting a bit busier this time, Erhan Jajovski, Jan van der Heide, the two GT Pro champions, into the pit lane at the same time.
Yeah, it's true, both have at least one title. I mean, Jajovski has 2 GT Pro Series titles to his name, so definitely a great driver. Let's see if their pit strategy pays off. By the way, the Traction.gg chat voting, 63% said Rietveld should try the undercut on Bornehaus. 36 said no. You see the rest of them. Kind of makes sense. Let's see if he's listening to the chat. Maybe he has it on his screen, like back in the days when I was racing in the Intel Pro Series. I actually had the chat and the stream running on a screen above my triple setup, just because I really
respect that.
All the action of the rest of the back. So
I respect that so much. I have someone whispering in my ear and I can't focus. I'm missing apexes left, right, and centre. Oh, Jan van der Heide onto the rear of Nuno Pinto, running through a Rivage. There, gets down the inside. That is for position. Obviously, the pit stop differences. Nuno Pinto yet to pit. Jan van der Heide fresh out of the pit lane, and pace differential as well. Nuno Pinto didn't even qualify, but that might be a little bit naughty from van der Heide as he passes Pinto. Just a little bit dicey. Pinto's fastest lap of the race, by the way, a 45.1, so has lost a lot of time. Here's Alex Siebel making that move on the Team Fordzilla driver, who was impressive, was actually fighting for the championship in GT Pro, was looking really strong. And remember back to Silverstone, where was leading the race, had a disconnection. Kasper Stolzer won that one. I wonder if that's still even affecting him now, as Mohamed Patel, Yuri Toman, Manuel Biancalilla and Liam de Waal into the pit lane.
Yeah, with that we now reached at least the podium spots to pull into the pit lane. And Yuri Toman now coming out for Fargo Sim Racing. He should come in front of the Musto car. No, he doesn't. See, they don't have to accelerate too much to get back to the limiter. But I want to say something to the cars that we previously had on screen. The highlight is something that I wanted to talk about, but I forgot. Seems like getting old.
I will say one thing. Simic has made up a lot of ground.
Where is he now?
Well, he's up into 13th, but bearing in mind he was 15th with the pit stop. Oh, who's had a crash? It's Giordano Valeriano, who's had a crash at Les Combes. Pretty big one in the background. There he is for Musto GD Esports. So there's another position for Simicic. But Simicic came in, I think he was around about 15th or 16th spot. Then has come into the pit lane and worked up. He started from 21st. He's now running in 12th. Post pit stop has jumped the likes of Erhan Jajovski, of Mohamed Patel, of Michi Hoyer, of Alex Siebel, of Jan van der Heide as well. That is some serious progress.
It's also, by the way, the very first front wing that's up for grabs here. Right. We're looking into the replay of Giordano Valeriano against the Red Bull Racing Esports car. They touched and then he was just sent off, being a passenger in his own car. Nothing he could do to avoid hitting the wall there. With that, he had to say goodbye to the front wing. That screams new nose, basically, for him. Luckily, we got plastic surgery waiting for him in the pit stops. Getting a new nose on, and then... No, he's actually done nothing, so he's not even going back to the pits. Probably don't want to risk getting involved in more accidents on the track. And still the half-second gap, by the way, between Bornehaus and Jeffrey Rietveld from the team of Red Line, so nothing changed there. These two are closely following each other the entire race so far. That's over 30 minutes. Doing a great job. No, I just wonder when they go ham, basically. That's what I'm waiting for. I'm not quite sure if Bornehaus is even at 100% right now.
No, me neither. By the way, Dennis Jordan has at the fastest lap of the race, a 42.680. That's a second faster than Bornehaus right now, and that's allowed him to pass Liam de Waal. That was in the pit lane sequence as well. So speaking of undercuts, they've made that one work, as I said, Jerne Simicic, who's worked their way up the order. This could be looking a lot better for Dennis Jordan. It was contact, by the way, between Jordan and Valeriano. I'd more lean in their sense of it's them two coming together. Valeriano seemed to miss the apex a little bit himself. I think Jordan was giving plenty of room. The two come together. We see that time and time again at Les Combes. It's just two cars coming together, the typical expectation. First one into the pit lane, second one into the pit lane as well. Bornehaus followed by Jeffrey Rietveld. The vote was to undercut. Well, he's not listening to that. Definitely doesn't have that on screen.
Yeah, I wonder if they just didn't want to risk any strategic play, so they decided to just go whenever Bonhouse is going to keep it lined up, and maybe someone had the better entry into the pit lane. You can win a bit of time, at least a fraction of a second, if you have the better entry. Bonhouse is now passing him. Rietveld is still standing. I think nothing really changed between those two.
Yes, apparently 0.6 of a second longer stop for Jeffrey Rietveld, so a little bit longer. Reminder, by the way, for anyone who's used to racing elsewhere in sim racing, contact is on in the pit lane. They can't just drive through each other. You've got to treat it as a regular pit lane, unsafe releases and all. Bonhouse has made up a bit of time. Yellow flag out in sector 2. Who is that who's dropping down the order? Alan Terzic is out of the race, so 2 retirements, and Alex Siebel as well. Alex Siebel is out of the race. What's happened to Red Bull Racing Esports' number 13, the 3rd retirement in quick succession?
They race that completely falls apart. This is a team championship. Red Bull Racing Esports was looking so strong here at Spa-Francorchamps. Now, with 1 car less, let's see, that is behind Valeriano. Does he actually run into Valeriano? No, he doesn't. Alex Siebel goes... He doesn't! He's clipping him! Unbelievable, sending both cars into the wall. Obviously, Valeriano lost another wing. Oh, that's why he had to DNF. Oh, he was without a wing already, but was that Siebel trying to go back onto the line, completely overlooking the Musto car that was still there?
Now, anyone who's seen, I can't remember who it was on, one of the catering, but I think it was 2013 Interlagos in the Brazilian Grand Prix, and Lewis Hamilton comes back across the front end of Caterham, was lapping him, of course, and the Caterham goes straight into the rear end. It's because what are you expecting the car behind to do? You can't just pull in front of someone in going into that point. I know they're expected to concede and stuff, but what's the requirement? Just give them the room. Don't chop up in front of them, because that's what happens. I'm sure that'll be a lesson learned from Alex Siebel, who is now out of the race in a round that was looking a little bit better for Red Bull Racing Esports, considering the team's championship and all that, as Siggy and Payet come into the pit lane. That will be tears for them. There's the slow-mo, Ruben Carrera-Alvarez. Nice little bit of explain as well, as those two come together and get sent off stage left in the Rocket Sim Sports car of, I believe that was Danny Kish coming through. There might have been Jan van der Heide. Pick up the position anyway. Yeah, drama. Jordan, though, up onto the podium, looking to relinquish any sort of doubt that Red Bull Racing Esports are here to do well.
Yeah, he's definitely able to score strong for the outfit, but would have been great with 2 Red Bull Racing Esports cars there. I would have loved to see that, though, from the Musto car, from a cockpit perspective, because while it now looks like Alex Siebel kind of turned back onto the line, it could have also been that at right that moment, Valeriano tried to turn into the corner and then clipped Siebel, but for that we would need the cockpit camera. You said, so someone probably has an issue here.
That is, I'm a little bit speechless. I don't quite know what's happened to Marco Pajic, but he is also out of the race. Came to a stop on the exit of pit lane on the run down the hill. I don't know why, but for one of the teams that was doing quite well here in the team standings, that's drama already. Baffled, speechless once again. Don't know what is going on there, but for Mercedes-AMG Petronas Esports, despite them leading the race, that's certainly not what they wanted. Now it needs to be the 35 points. Let's take a look at what happened as we ride on board with Valeriano. This is where Siebel's going to chop in front, and I think you'll kind of see that Valeriano, at least from my opinion, can't do anything about it. The 2 days just come together.
He was just unlucky. Like, Siebel was probably expecting Valeriano to be a bit slower, but that is still on Alex Siebel, sorry to say, but he's the overtaken car. He should be in control of the situation, and he should have not pulled back onto the line. Very unlucky, not blaming him for doing that on purpose or whatever. He's in a race, he's in the zone, he's trying to be his quickest version, basically, in this extremely hard field and grid. So things like that happen. By the way, we also see Rudy van Buren showing up in the chat. By the way, one of the drivers I would have expected to also be in the championship. Remarkable R32 driver, and also a real racing driver as of right now. Jan van der Heide now being attacked by Peter Bielak that comes around from Williams Esports. Obviously making happen before the braking zone. There is enough slipstream together with the DRS that really helps. And sending Jan van der Heide back 1 position up to 12.
Yeah, plenty of big drivers in the championship. It was good to see Rudy Van Buren, of course, world's fastest gamer back in 2017, was actually in the finals with the driver that's leading the race, Bunnerhaus. So interesting to see big names appearing. One of the many Team Redline drivers as well. Pajic out and then out. Is the pit limiter not coming off? Yeah, the pit limiter's not coming off. You can look, he's locked at 60k.
How does that happen for him?
I've never had that, a pit limiter coming on and then never coming back off again.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. It's like if he was able to turn it on, then he should have been able to turn it off.
Yeah, you got the button.
So it's unless he pressed it so hard that he basically destroyed it right going into the pits, and it was not working coming out of the pits. Jumping aboard with Michi Hoyer, who is inside the top 10, and pulling in for the second time now, isn't he?
I believe so. He's been into the pit lane before. That was back on lap 11, so a second pit stop for Michi Hoyer and into the box to affect that. That's interesting. This is the thing. They're required to make a pit stop, and for anyone who's answering that, will anyone make a two-stop strategy? Well, let's be honest, that is a solid yes. I don't think anyone from the front will, but we certainly know that someone's trying it.
It's like everyone else that's a tip no now, that's 53% as of right now, are wrong. That's 25 people since 50 people already voted in the chat. By the way, great work from Dragon.GG, bringing us some engagement here in the chat. And just shoot your questions or whatever. We're trying to keep an eye on the chat, even though there is plenty of action here on the Spa racetrack. Michi Hoyer dropped down to 18th. I mean, that's still not bad. Now he's sitting on the new set of softs, I would say. So maybe that pays off, because Simoncic, who's currently in 6th, he should be on very old tyres, at least for the last 10 minutes. So his pace will drop off compared to Mohamed Patel or Yuyovsky behind him, Kevin Siggy in front of him. So we might see a few changes there still, just because they are running different strategies.
Well, talking of those, that tyre differential, Jean Simicic's previous lap, a 43.946. Kevin Siggy's fastest lap of the race, a 42.577. He is absolutely flying and onto the brakes very heavily. It's been a great race so far from Liam Deval, the young man, as Jean Simincic comes into the pit lane to effect the second stop. I'm a little bit baffled to see why we're seeing so many two-stop races. Simincic had issues in the pit lane strategy-wise yesterday in the Formula Sim Racing World Championship, and seeing it again. Nice to see him, by the way, in a burst top and with a bit of a background as well. I've seen Simincic race in a few things, including a shirt and tie in the middle of summer, which I don't think that's a wise move, especially not in Slovenia, because I know it gets hot there in the summer. But alas, departing pit lane, way down the order, things aren't looking so good for Burst. I'm pretty sure Cam Roger is on the pit wall for them, trying to affect some strategy this evening, and I think we can ask him a few questions after this as to what, why, and how.
Yeah, it's quite surprising that both esports cars had to come in, but on the other hand, Simoncic had a very, very early stop, which was probably more forced than his real strategy, so things probably changed for him, and his tyres were not that great anymore. Kevin Siggy against Wolf's Esports here around the outside once again. That should have been Liam DeVol. Yeah, it was from Wolf's GR Esports. By the way, not Toyota GR. Just to make that clear. It's not a Toyota Yaris, nor does it have all-wheel drive.
It's a bit quicker than the Yaris.
Slightly. And hopefully it rolls better. I saw some videos of rolling that was not great. And they do overheat a lot here. So, let's hope Wolf's GR Esports has that in mind when visiting the Nürburgring for the third race of the championship. Obviously, next up is Silverstone for the championship. Manuel Biancolina, someone that we highlighted, I think. Was it GT Pro Series Season 1? Was Biancolina still in Season 1 back then? Or did I see him in the Spa race back?
It's a good question. I don't know about Biancolina. He's a driver that's been in sim racing for an awful long time, though. Has, like I said, done countless things, races, I believe, in the F1 Esports Championship. Did do the first season, you're right, in GT Pro, finished 18th in the standings, and then didn't take part in Season 2 and Season 3, of course. But a driver who's done many things in sim racing. I said he was the runner-up in the GTE category at Le Mans Virtual, and that's quite impressive considering how strong the Porsches were that day with Coanda Sinsel. By the way, a team that's missing from this. Would love to have seen Coanda in a series like this. This is Michi Hoyer making a move, or it could be Jone Simoncic. They're both in the same car, but it is actually Michi Hoyer making a move. That one will be on Maguire. I'm not sure how much Bianca Lilla can get. He's one of the people that I would put in this as being a question mark, as someone who can achieve great things. I'm just not sure when, where, and how. It might be this random Grand Prix at some point.
Yeah, it could be very well. So, back to the fight that we have on screen. Kasper Stolzen now up to 15th, having Jone Simoncic behind him, but Simoncic on brand new tyres because he did his second pit stop, and there's still 16 minutes on the clock. I wonder if that might even pay off for a top 10 result. I mean, where did he start? And then he also had that very early pit stop due to a small contact, I think, if I remember correctly.
Oh, Dennis in the pit lane. Dennis Jordan in the pit lane. I'm very confused. So we had the question changed, obviously, for everyone in chat here, from is anyone going to do a two-stop strategy to will the two-stop strategy pay off? And Dennis Jordan into the pit lane, Kasper Stolzer being dived there from Jone Simoncic, and to be honest, may well come up the order. I'm a bit confused by this. It's one that will unfold over the next 15 minutes of proceedings, but of course it's a new series to us. It's a strategy that we don't understand. It would explain why Simoncic and Jordan made so much progress on the in the first stop, because they didn't take any fuel in comparison to everyone else. They made that from having a pit stop that was much shorter. And look, I have doubted Jone Simoncic's strategy before, and I said that I would never do it again, but this one is one that I do have questions for.
I'm not quite sure yet. 15 minutes is still a long time to go, and we see him being a ton quicker than Kasper Stolzer, but on the other hand, Kasper Stolzer was fairly far behind early in the race, so might not be the absolute max currently in pace on the track. Who is? It's obviously Bono House, who's complete control. What a surprise for a Mercedes-AMG Petronas car. I think that never happened in the history of motorsport, even in the virtual world. But Safari does very well, keeping the Team Redline car of Jeffrey Riefeld in a nice distance, making sure that he's never getting in striking range. And definitely did not change after the pit stop. They had a great pit stop there from Bono House, and he can be proud of his crew, I would say.
Well, that's it. It's like I said, the pit stop for Bono was 6/10 shorter. That could be a little bit less fuel, maybe taking a bit more on the start. And that 6/10 was enough to break the slipstream range. And from that point on, has just cleared off into distance. They are both now lapping at fairly identical lap times, mid 43s for the pair of them. A 43.4 in the previous, plays a 43.5 from House and Rietveld a piece. So you can see it there at the bottom of your screen. It was 1/10 slower from Rietveld, which realistically at this point things is not much. You can see that ebb and flow. It's just House just making the progress where he needed to. I was going to speak of Formula Sim Racing World Champions. This was the first driver to win a Formula Sim Racing World Championship after Bono House. This is Petter Burdek trying to get by Jiri Toman on the run down the hill into Rivage, and looking fairly pacey at the moment.
By the way, I absolutely love the Williams Esports livery, but if I could ask for one thing of the designer, it would have been something different than all white from when looking at the front of the car. I think we had the same discussion already in GT Pro Series, because they're great looking cars, but flat from the front, lose a bit of that fascination with everything being white. But at least we know exactly which car it is, and I think that's what really counts.
You can spot it from a mile away, yeah.
Yeah, he's dropping off in pace a bit once again compared to Tillman. He's getting away in the Varga Sim Racing car up front here, 11th and 12th position. Let's see, where do we have... I want to look at the teams once again. So, Redline, second and third. Control. Yeah, and then we have Mercedes first and none.
Retired,
because his teammate is already retired, which probably puts Redline as the strongest team in Spa if it would finish as it is right now. Next up could be Williams Esports, actually.
Right.
Or Varga. Varga, 7th and 11th, and Williams is 8th and 12th.
Yeah, I mean, this is, like I say, it's a real turn because obviously Wolves had 2 drivers up inside the top 10 a bit earlier, but Maguire's dropped off on pace. Mercedes had 2 drivers up there, but the retirement, that bizarre thing for Pajic. Now, I will say, I'm just going to go back to that for one brief moment, that Pajic, I mean, he's not, he's a smart driver, so I'm not going to say that, he's just, surely you just press the button. Like, obviously, he's trying something. He's trying to release the pit limiter. He just doesn't understand why it's not coming off, whether it's a button failure or something. I don't know what the issue would be. It was certainly mapped because he did get down to pit lane speed, but there have been issues there. And yeah, a retirement from the race, which is a shame for Mercedes when they could be looking so strong. At the moment, though, like you say, everything is looking sweet for Team Redline, which with that lineup between Jeffrey Rietveld and Kevin Siggy, let's be honest, Redline are one of the all-time great teams in sim racing. How long have they been around? Dom Doohan's squad, an incredible team that have competed at a vast level of sim racing, and think of all their real-world drivers as well. So it's no surprise to see them being as strong as they are, but it is great to see them in the championship regardless.
Yeah, definitely. They're doing well, and they're doing well everywhere in terms of sim racing over so many years. So they definitely deserve a strong start here at Spa-Francorchamps. You said it, it's a button press that kind of cost Mercedes-AMG Petronas probably the overall lead in terms of teams at Spa. But on the other hand, what is it? Was it a button press? Was it maybe an automated pit limiter? Then there would be the next question: is that even allowed in the championship? And we kind of go into the direction of a certain real championship where sometimes you have to question certain technology used per race. And if that was the case, then I'm absolutely sure that rFactor and the marshals will be all over that car and check absolutely everything what happened there, because I'm not quite sure scripting like this would be allowed. Johnny Simoncic currently in 15th, looking at Risto Capit, the teammate of Ernioski. Capit and Jurowski both more on the silent side in terms of the race here at the season opener. But I'm pretty much sure that Simoncic and Capit that had multiple fights in the GT series previously, that Capit will not give up that spot just easily.
These are 2 drivers that we'll talk about GT Pro for a quick second. Because when you speak of 2 drivers, by the way, I think there was a yellow flag out in Sector 2, which I think might have been Jordi Spears, who's returned to pit lane for the 3rd time in this race, was the first driver to make a pit stop and now returns into pit lane, what seems to be a bit of a home for Spears at this track where he won the championship against the likes of Vargas Marcel Cincic in a fantastic fashion a little while ago in Season 2. GT Pro, but these 2 drivers, or GT Challenge rather, these 2 drivers have been in GT Pro since the very beginning, and they're 2 drivers that we know are top quality drivers. The fact that neither of them have won a race at that level speaks volumes of the competitive nature of it, and especially, again, speaking here, the fact that they're running in 14th and 15th. I know oddities on strategy and stuff, but it shows how strong the series is and how much some of these teams are getting out of the car. Racing again, continuing. Risto Capit defending. I mean, surely Simoncic is going to get past here at Lake Holm. Surely.
Yeah, it should be like with all the slipstream and DRS working for him. As soon as they went up radio, it should be an easy move. At least in his playbook, I would say. He gets the slipstream. Now should be able to flap that rear wing and then go around the outside once again. So Risto Capit had to give up that position here. There we saw the DRS working once again. Absolutely love that shot, by the way. Every single time we see those rear wings clipping in and going back to the normal position. But Risto Capit now down to 15th. And look at the gap he has already due to the speed Simoncic brought onto that straight. I mean, that is nearly a second already.
Yeah, it's, I mean, there's this tyre differential as well. Of course, we're talking about these cars will all be weighing roughly the same, but it's just how much grip is left in Jean Alesi Esports' brand new soft compound tyres as he'll be charging up to try and just, again, each position's a point, and that's what he's got to focus on. A fairly disappointing round thus far for Burst. Certainly not the round they were expecting, running 14th and 16th, which is okay points. A reminder, there are some teams that aren't looking to win this championship. They're more looking to just stay in the series, avoid relegation. I was chatting to a couple beforehand that there's a couple of drivers and teams that just want to score points on a decent basis and avoid being one of the bottom two teams. Well, now that we've had quite a lot of retirements to open the season, I think some of those teams might actually be breathing a sigh of release. It's just a 6-round championship. There's almost no time to recover from issues. And so if you've had them in round one, well, you're going to be carrying that weight all the way through the season. You're right on board with Dennis Jordan, going to try and get by Williams Esports' Peter Berliak.
It's definitely not a season where you want to start like that with the DNF and then be like, oh, it's fine. There's so many points on the board. They aren't, right? And the races won't get any easier. So you definitely want to make sure that you bring some points home for your team. And it'll be quite interesting to see who will be around the last positions, the ones that might drop out of Formula Pro immediately after those 6 races. We see the Red Bull Racing Esports car closing the gap to Williams Esports here. Great job. That should be Dennis Jordan, on Peter Berliak for 12th and 13th. And I wonder if you might have a shot around Blanchimont here to make up another spot.
That would be a brave move. That would be an absolutely brave move. I think also that Manuel Biancalilla is also close to effecting a move on Jan van der Heijden. It's not quite there. This is definitely a closer battle at present as running through Fania. It's Dennis Jordan who's basically all over the rear wing, knocking at the door. It's as close as Morse code that you can get in open wheel racing. Not rubbing the rear end, but I think you're absolutely right. This run here, sure, there's no DRS, but Slipstream is king at this point. You can see how much he's closing. We're running into Blanchimont now. The 27 of Dennis Jordan trying to get by Peter Berliak. Will he make a move on the brakes? No, he will not. Smart move, because again, this is what I was saying earlier with Kevin Siggy's attempt a bit earlier in the race, is why make a move into the chicane when the run into Les Combes is far more important?
Yeah, that is. You want to get that slipstream, and so far Dennis Jordan is in a great position as of right now. For the very last minutes of the race, as we're done 55, which leaves us with another 5 minutes in this race, and Jordan should be able now to use the DRS. Let's see. Oh, this time we actually get it right on the rear wing. There it opens. All the speed available for Dennis Jordan, but this time he has to go the inside as Peter Berliak is not covering it, and it might pay off for him. Both slightly touch. Luckily, they all get through this. I saw you already sweating on the camera there, Lewis, being afraid that this might be an incident, but nope, Dennis Jordan is through.
Yeah, 2 quality drivers going toe-to-toe. You see, I mean, we've brought this up a few times, but once again, just going to hammer that point again. The speed of Dennis Jordan, 356 kilometers an hour getting into the braking zone at Les Combes. Absolutely sensational speed. The raw power of these V10 engines was about 800 brake horsepower they're running around here in the screen, really taking to the Ardennes. By the way, that Jeffrey Rietveld was closing back down on Bunnerhaus at the front of the field, but a little bit of inconsistency over a few laps has built that gap back up to closer around 3 seconds as they'll be heading on to the 3rd to last lap of the race. 4 minutes left in it. And this is where you hope your fuel calculation's absolutely right. You hope you're spot on that. Erhan Yovsky riding on board with him now, trying to get himself a top 5. Definitely can't complain about the BOP here as he runs down the hill. 6th spot for him, looking better at this attempt at Spa than it was in Season 3 of GT Pro. Yeah, I've got to bring it up. You know I do.
Yes, I was waiting for that. To be honest, absolutely fine with it. But yeah, all of these cars are the same. And they've got the same engine, same aero package. Well, we see Jakub Brzezinski now moving around Marshall Chinchik. So moving up to 7th spot. Another thing that we can say today, it might not be down to BOP at all this time, but we see a ton of overtaking, and that is Manuel Biancalilla going around Jan van der Heijden, the GT Pro champion. And that was an incredible move from the Muster GT Esports driver, I have to say. Lovely to watch this one. Hope we actually get a replay of that. It shows us the entire maneuver. Johnny Simoncic still opening up that gap to Peter Berliak with the car he took down previously. We're still looking at, more than half a second, so that should be a healthy gap for now for the last 2.5 minutes.
Yeah, just getting up past Peter Buriak there on the turn in. Of course, those two being FSR World Champions as well. So we've got a lot of them on the grid. Of course, naturally, open wheel racing. They love fighting with each other. I'm going to say that was, at least from where we cut onto it, a brilliant move from Bianca Lilla around the outside of Jan van der Heide. Absolutely smart. Let's see if we can take another look at it, because this is about as good as you like in the slipstream. You can see they're defending as hard as the German can. But the brakes of Bianca Lilla, a little bit too much space given. Perfect between the two. That is respect-filled racing that we love to see.
Oh, he had DRS open. I was wondering, because he didn't have as much speed on this maneuver as some of the other drivers that we witnessed earlier doing the overtaking there. But great maneuver, both good respect from both drivers, making sure that that was a clean pass and getting us great racing action here on the screen in the season opener of the rFactor 2 Formula Pro series powered by Traction.gg. So I think we got a worthy first race of the championship with a great taste of what's happening in the next 5 races.
Yeah, exactly. It's a short season, but we are going to have a thriller all the way through if this is anything to go by. A great opener of the season, and that's why you pick a track like this. Spa always delivers good stuff. Risto Kappa defending, but leaves enough of the door for Michi Hoyer to come through to take 15th position off of him. Goes for the cut back, going through Lecon. Might try and make a move at Malmedy on the run down to Rivage, but it's not enough, and the German of Michi Hoyer progressing a position. I will say again, I know it's not been a great round for Burs, but again, to talk of the heights that Michi Hoyer has been at in the recent past, about a couple of years ago, let's go with that, was a driver that maybe we could have questioned the ability of, but more so in the recent past, has won countless races, has won countless championships, including the rFactor 2 GT Challenge series to promote himself up into GT Pro, and has been matching his teammate Jone Simoncic in pretty much every season they've done together. Definitely a brilliant driver. By the way, Bono House started the final lap of the race.
Yeah, and it seems like there was no question throughout the entire race that Bono House can bring that back, because after the start, Jeffrey Rietveldt never had a single chance to attack the Mercedes-AMG Petronas Esports driver, who's doing an impressive job here with, I don't want to say his return to rFactor 2, because he was never really gone, but at least to the Pro Series, because he wasn't in the GT Pro Series previously, so this is his first appearance in an official rFactor 2 Pro Series. Now with the open wheelers, and he's having a great one in Spa-Francorchamps. Manuel Bianco-Lila might see himself defending against the same move of Jan van der Heide, the move that he just did a lap ago. And the Rocket Sim Sport driver managed to go around the outside, but they both touch on the apex. As Bianco-Lila tries to defend, he turns around Jan van der Heide, who spins twice, luckily not hitting anything, back into the race. But what was that? Both drivers being fairly similar in terms of pace throughout the chicane. And it seems like that was hard defended and bad luck for Jan van der Heide.
Yeah, I think we need to take a second look at that after the race, as Dennis Jordan as well will be on the rear end coming into the braking zone at bus stop. I'm absolutely sure. Front of the field, though, I mean, you may not welcome back to rFactor 2, but I certainly will when it comes to top-level competition. He's been away from us for a little while, has been taking part elsewhere, but Mr. 5-time comes out of the final corner. What else can this driver win? Bono House on top here at Spa, and that will feel perfectly good. Jeffrey Rietveldt coming in behind, and I'm pretty sure Dom Duran will be looking on pretty happy, because if you count Bono House as a red line driver, it's a lockout on the podium. Rietveldt and Siggy looking to take control of this championship in the very early stages with second and third. Liam Duval did fantastically well, was running third most of the day, dropped down to fourth in the final moments, and Mohamed Patel will follow him across the line. Will Jan van der Heide be able to hang on from Dennis Jordan? The answer to that question is yes, but not by much. Across in 11th, promoting Yuri Toman into the top 10.
I'm kind of sad now that we don't have a real podium ceremony, because I was wondering what the Team Redline hymn will be. Right? They should be like that. So in the Pro Series, every team should get his own soundtrack in. So we have that for the podium ceremony. But you're right, it's the 2 Team Redline drivers, 3 account for Bono House. But that's a great start for them into this series. That should also get them way more points than Mercedes-AMG Petronas Esports. So Redline should be leading team, going over to Great Britain, to Silverstone. Michi Hoyer finishes 15th in front of Risto Kappa, who is down to 16th, and then 17th. That is the second Volv's GR Esports car, driven by Adam McGuire. And then I didn't catch the next car behind that. Well, we see the podium in a formation flight, I would say. Bono House. I just wonder, Bono House had a ton of these races, right? Where he starts pole, he went away, and he showed great consistency. Does he sometimes feel like it would be more fun with a reverse grid?
Oh, maybe indeed. I mean, either way, he just loves racing. He's very good from the front, but did have to work for it because Rietveld was there. Let's take a look again then what happened between Biancalilla and Jan van der Heide. So van der Heide gets through on the slipstream. Biancalilla is there, cut across, beautifully judged, maybe turned in a little bit too much, left the nose down the inside, bottomed out on the curb and spins Jan van der Heide. A bit of a hard one to pick out there. I'm not sure your view on it. It just looked a bit of hard racing between the two. We'll get your opinion on that in a moment. The race order then, of course, unofficial as things would stand. Bono House taking the first win of the season with Rietveld and Siggy rounding out the podium. Deval Mohamed Patel, the top 5 with Dijovski. Brzezinski, super sub for Williams Esports, up to 7th spot. The Le Mans virtual winner, Marcel Cinchik and Manuel Biancalilla. Yuri Toman, Varga looking good inside the top 10. Behind that, of course, the results would switch, seeing Jan van der Heide in 11th spot, and Marcel Cinchik would be gaining through that as well, say up to 8th. Close stuff between them. What are your thoughts on that incident?
First of all, great to see. Although I don't like the outcome, I do not want to see Jan van der Heide spin or any other driver, but on the other end, seeing Biancalilla coming back amazingly at the entry of the corner. He hit his braking point. He wasn't late. He made the corner. He tried to stay on the accelerator then to keep it aside of Jan van der Heide. And then the question here is, they touched, fine, not much happened. But is it then down to Jan van der Heide overlooking Biancalilla on the inside because he obviously closed the door? Or was it Biancalilla pushing a bit too much because his car was kind of outside of the white lines? But there was also no other way for him to make it there after the contact. So I guess this is a race incident. It's very unhappy for Jan van der Heide in terms of the result, but in terms of the rush that I felt when seeing Biancalilla coming back there and Jan van der Heide defending up the inside, that was just amazing entertainment.
I mean, what I will say is, regardless of it, the judgment between the pair for Jan van der Heide to switch it back up into defence, to try and move across, and Biancalilla to have that instant judgment to go, okay, I'm going to send this around the outside, and to be honest, made it on the brakes. Just, I think maybe didn't quite give just enough room. It was tight between them, but it's tight at Les Combes anyway, and it was the bottoming out on the curb that really sent them. I don't know how I'd judge it. It's hard racing. That's what we have, and to be honest, whatever race direction says about it, it was a great show, and that's the most important thing here, at least for me and you. I mean, we're here to enjoy what we see, and that was definitely a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think we can't complain about the season opener of the rFactor Formula Pro Series. We saw good racing. We had a very exciting qualification, right, which has a new format for the Pro Series here. GT Pro, completely different style of racing and qualification. I think that was already a first glimpse of what to expect from a race, and then the Spa race did not disappoint at all. We saw tons of overtaking, we saw different strategies, we had heartbreaking moments as well, and as much as we like clean racing, heartbreaking spins and all that are part of motorsport as well. So I think this race delivered on all the different parts of a good race, and I can't wait to head over to Silverstone, or obviously for everyone out there, if you're into seeing a race on Spa again, even though it isn't for 5,000 euros championship prize money for the winning team, there is the Formula Challenge series on Friday evening. So that's the grid that obviously wants to make it here into the Pro Series next season. So a good grid as well. I can't take it away from the grid there. I'm pretty sure Aiden Millward did not make it into Split 1. Because I see him in the
something about his driving.
Yeah, no, he said that he is racing in Challenge, but I think he's in Split 1. Otherwise, there would have been a lot of fun in commentating on Aiden Millward in that series. But yeah, it's another big grid. It's another good grid as well. Not as top one as this one here, but definitely one that you should watch on Friday evening. Silverstone Round 2, that's the next one up, 2nd of August. Then we head over to visit Lewis McLeod, basically, in Great Britain. And then Lewis comes over to visit me at the Nürburgring. in round 3. Maybe I should fly over to you to actually do that on site. It would be quite funny.
Only if I get to come to the Nürburgring. It's around about the right time. I think it's a month early. Obviously, I think a lot of people will be venturing over there at the towards the middle end of September. But I will say, probably one of the best ways to open the season. What race we saw, you said about the tiers there. I think none more so than the likes of Payich. The question marks over what happened there, we have no idea. But we'll try and respond back at Silverstone, see if we can take Mercedes to the top there again. Who knows? There's, again, just to counter it, no success ballast, no BOP, no nothing. They're all driving the exact same car, and that's exactly what we want to see. It's about the drivers making a difference, and I can't wait for a couple of weeks. We're going to see fantastic stuff, and even, like you say, on Friday as well, I'm sure we're going to see some brilliant racing there.
Yeah, talking about Friday, and just picking up on the question of Jimmy Coop asking, how do I get involved in the rFactor 2 League Racing? First step, I would say, is always a good one, to join the official rFactor 2 Discord. Obviously, a lot of championships, and if you're talking about this one here, Pro obviously means you will need to go through the rFactor 2 Formula Challenge series, which you can. So there are ways to get into that and to race through the splits. And if you're good enough and you're having a great season, then we might commentate on you here in next season or the season after in Pro Series. It's everyone's game. It's not like real life motorsport where I'm now asking you to open your wallet and bring out the first few millions to make it into this, which is why we love sim racing. So yeah, there's still a lot to race for, I would say, Lewis, for everyone to get involved as well.
Oh yeah, this is I love this. I've always said this before when it comes to with the Pro Series, that they're hard to get into. That's exactly the design, is that it's difficult to get into Formula Pro, it's difficult to get into GT Pro, and that's why we see the very, very best in these championships. If you want to win a championship at this level, you have to perform regardless of anything else. You've got to be on top form, and that's exactly what we've seen. You've got to be good enough to get on the grid, and the best way to weigh that up is by taking on some other competitors that want their way on. And like I say, we're going to see some brilliant racing, not only in Formula Challenge, but also in GT Pro and GT Challenge as well at a later date. I'm sure we're going to see more brilliant racing.
So the season opener is in the books, so I say thank you to Lewis McGratty for joining me on this very first race of the Formula Pro Series. Mark down in your calendar, Friday, there is the rFactor 2 Formula Challenge. Then on Monday next week, you will see the GT Pro Series powered by Traction.gg. So if you're into GTE racing and the best GT drivers, then check that out next Monday, same place here, same timing as the Formula Pro Series, and we will return in 2 weeks' time. My name is Rennie Butler. Until then, goodbye.